The story begins with a ritual. The chief elder, surrounded by his people, gives a speech about how the gods of the universe have given them the power to fight monsters. The skill tree. He lifts up a basket containing a newborn baby and shouts that Toru has a skill branch called Restoration. The baby cries incessantly. Switching to another time period, we are shown the entrance to the goblin forest. A man with dark hair and armor is hunting some kind of creature. In front of him stands a tree. He has a dagger in one hand and a long sword hanging from his belt. He swings this dagger at the unknown creature and after several attempts finally hits the core and tears the entity apart. He takes out the dagger and sees that the blade of the knife has become deformed. The acid is eaten away at his knife, which he realizes. He looks at the sword and then confidently uses his recovery ability, causing the knife blade to straighten and return to its original shape. He fills some vessel with killed slime and says that this acid is already from 12 slime. Suddenly, someone calls him to wait behind. The man turns around and sees an animal with whiskers and sharp teeth dying right before his eyes. The man realizes that magic has just been used. The strangers aim their blows straight at him, but he manages to jump and dodge the blow, after which the tree standing behind him breaks from the stranger's attack. The man lands and looks back. One of the hunters, a blond man, says indignantly that he was the only one who wanted to catch him, and that some old man ruined his spell. He picks up the rest of the beast and asks how he can sell it. He asks about the main character. Didn't he know that he always wanders at the entrance to the forest to hunt slugs? The blonde angrily says that he collects nothing but trash. The comrade tells the blonde that he is only telling the truth and asks him to look at his armor and weapons because they are completely intact. This proves that he only hunts weak monsters. The blonde gets angry and says that this is a waste of time. He suggests that the others move further into the forest and hunt for bigger game. 30 years ago, the priest and the villagers of his village gave him a skill that was supposed to restore anything. It was enough to restore the broken knife he had used to destroy the slime core a moment ago. However, he can only activate the skill on monster-related items, so it is useless during combat. For a long time, he was unable to enter the forest. A man comes to the border town of Dotton at the city gates. 2 knights stand at the brick wall, guarding the entrance. The man is met by another blond man with very long hair. He sarcastically asks him, calling him an old man, if he has finished collecting dirt earlier. The knight in the background tells him to stop talking like that. The protagonist looks up at him and shows him his badge. The blonde says that he knows this isn't the first time he's shown him his badge of the lowest class, G-rank adventurer. The protagonist turns away silently and leaves. The blonde man shouts after him that it's time for him to retire because being a gatekeeper is much easier. The blonde exhales. In the adventurer's item evaluation department, the worker asks for the next client to come to her. The protagonist approaches her and gives her the slug acid. The worker picks up the objects with disgust and asks what they are. The protagonist does not answer. The woman asks if he is sure he has the right address because they are evaluating items obtained during hunting. Suddenly, they are joined by that group of comrades with the blonde guy, who tells her that he was wrong because a scavenger hunt is also a hunt. They come closer and say that he wasted their time during the hunt, so they will take it. The third comrade tells the second to stand. As soon as one of them reaches out to the slugs, the protagonist immediately hits the man in the face, taking his prey. The blonde also attacks him, but he easily dodges the blow so that the blonde crashes into the worker's counter. The worker starts to panic and shake. She has been splashed with acid from the mucus. She asks what it is and asks someone to call the guards. Another polite worker approaches them, calls the first one Marika and asks if she did it again. She turns her head and thanks the main character for everything, calling him Toru. The woman scolds Marika that even though she said the liquid was safe, she said to be careful. Marika says it's not her fault. The guards take those comrades, Toru takes the slimes. Anna tells Marika that she will clean up here. Suddenly, all the slime gathers into a heap in the atmosphere and flies back into its shell, surprising Marika. Anna tells him that 1 mole horn and 15 forest slugs will cost 95 copper coins. She gives them to him, and he leaves with a bag of money. Toru comes to the butcher's shop. The vendor greets him and sees the slaughtered animal. Toru says nothing. The butcher picks up the animal and says that it will make it easier for him to skin it. He asks if he will take half of the meat for himself, and the butcher buys the other half. After a while, the butcher hands him something wrapped up, saying it's for him. Then he whispers that it's a regular bonus, so he should keep it a secret from the boss. Someone from the audience shouts at the worker to stop chatting and work. The butcher obeys him contentedly. Toru goes around the corner with a bag of meat at night and sits down. He opens the bag of entrails, and stray cats come out to the smell. The cats approach the food and begin to eat. Toru pats their heads with a satisfied face. Then he notices something in the shadows. The eyes of an animal. He feels a little sad that the third one still doesn't come to him. Then he stands up and says that he never eats while Toru is around, so he better go. He gathers up the rest of the bag and leaves. A third animal slowly emerges from the shadows. Toru arrives at Avril's boarding house. A woman with elf ears comes out to her. Toru hands over a package and says that it is horned mole meat. It's Avril's landlord. She thanks him and says it will probably come in handy. Her face is soft and calm, wishing him well. Toru comes to his room and lies down on his bed. He closes his eyes and begins to think that today was no different from any other day. In his opinion, tomorrow will be no different. He opens his eyes and looks closely at the closet. Then he picks up his badge and checks his skill points for today. He is surprised and stands up abruptly, seeing that he already has enough control points. He turns his head towards the closet. He looks at the closet confidently and defiantly, walks up to it and opens its doors. In the closet stands a soulless girl with long hair in a dress. This huge doll does not speak and continues to look at him. Toru looks at her with regret and remembers the events that happened 25 years ago. The followers of the gods of destruction at that time crawled out of the great abyss at the center of the world and attacked his village. They actively devoured the villagers, one after another. They had almost reached it. The hidden passage to the main road was ahead. Suddenly, a beast attacked them, but Toru jerked away and was able to kill it. While he was rejoicing over this, another monster appeared behind him. The girl excitedly screams his name. She runs up to him and takes the monster's blow to protect Toru. The boy turns to her and sees her shaking and covered in blood. The old man clicks his tongue and uses his ability to stop time. Everything freezes. The old man turns to Toru and says that he has stopped their time and that he must take her with him. Toru trembles and holds back tears. The old man shouts to him that she is still alive. After these words, hope appears in his eyes. They go to the Temple of Healing. The healer says that this is terrible and that even the power of the water god Aurelia cannot heal her while the stop skill is active. He adds that if it is cancelled, she will die at that very moment. Toru gets angry and gives up on the idea. The old man says that there may be only one way to save her. Toru asks him to tell him what it is. Grandpa says that his recovery skill can save her. Toru didn't expect that. He looks at him in shock. Then he yells at him that it's impossible and that he can only turn back time 10 seconds, and besides, his skill doesn't work on living beings. The old man says that if he raises his level, everything will be different. Toru looks at his grandfather with interest. The old man tells him that he can open the power of God if he reaches level 10 because with his ability to stop, everything was the same. Toru shouts that he can still save her then. The old man agrees but says that he will have to suffer a lot on the way to it. Toru shouts that it does not matter because if she survives, he will do it, no matter what it costs him. The path further was as terrible as the priest described. In order to increase the level, it was necessary to kill monsters. But Toru did not know how to fight. He could only run. At one point, the gate guard couldn't look at him. He started teaching him how to use a sword. Soon he was able to hunt. He would constantly see newbies joining teams and being taught how to distribute skill points. He became a master of dodging and parrying when he reached level 30. He once saved a child from monsters that were attacking Dadan City, which caused him to lose half of his left arm's strength. Even with such a wound, he still continued to hunt small monsters every day from morning to night. It was becoming more and more difficult to increase his skill level, but even this did not guarantee that his wish would come true. But Toru refused to give in. Returning from his memories, he reaches out his hand to the girl. Then he removes his hand, sits down on the bed and says that first he needs to level up. Every person has an innate tree skill. A person can perform various miracles with the skill contained in the branches. In his head, he takes a vessel of skill points, full of 10,000 units, and pours it all onto the tree. Restoration. Returns objects used in battle to their original state. He is at level 10. He can use his skill 10 times in 1 hour. It is activated by blinking at will. Toru realizes that the limitation of his recovery skill has changed from item to object. He clenches his fist. He recalls his grandfather's words that he would be able to release the full potential of the God of Time when he reached 10 levels, and that it was the same with his stop. He looks at the vessel in the corridor and says that it left them halfway, but the ashes of the grandfather and the stop remained with him. He goes to the vessel, opens it, and scoops up the ashes from there. He looks at the sand and uses the recovery skill. Nothing happens. He understands that the gods of the universe cannot return departed souls, which was to be expected. He looks at his injured left hand and remembers everything abruptly. He doesn't understand why he saw how he injured his hand. He wonders if recovery has the ability to look at past targets. The fruit of the tree speaks of the perception of the time continuum, the precise understanding of the time continuum of goals. He looks frantically at his hand and realizes that he can feel blood flowing down his left hand. He clenches his fist and pulls it towards him. He says it's clear. He activated it through his gloves so he can use the restoration without direct contact. He turns his head sharply towards the closet. He stands up and reaches his hand to her neck where the wound was. He silently asks himself for it to work. He uses his ability and sees many memories from that event. He continues to look at her. Seeing no reaction, he wonders if it didn't work. However, she makes a sound, and Toru's eyes widen. The girl comes out of the closet, looks around, and asks if this is the afterlife. Toru replies that it is a closet. He asks her if he should explain everything. The girl asks him to tell her with a smile. He tells that when he was a child, his grandfather stopped her time with a stop. He continued her treatment, and that he needed a lot of money, so it took quite a long time. The girl asks him if his grandfather left them. The girl ponders. Toru doubts that she recognizes him. He smiles and says that if he uses restoration, he will become the boy he was then. But even if he rejuvenates his body, he will still be an old man at heart. The girl suddenly starts saying that there was another boy there with her. Toru averts his gaze and says that no, he hasn't heard anything like that. The girl says that she understands. Toru thinks to himself that this will be better for everyone, touching his face with his index finger. Suddenly, the girl bursts into genuine laughter, and through her laughter, she says that he still hasn't been able to get rid of his old habit of touching his chin when lost in thought, after which she tenderly calls him by name. Toru, hearing his name from her lips with slight surprise, says the name Sarah in response, trying to make sure that what is happening is real. Sarah, without a second's hesitation, throws herself into his tight embrace with a joyful cry. Toru asks her when exactly she realized that it was him standing in front of her. Sarah confidently answers that she recognized him from the very beginning of their meeting, but Toru, with a slight grin, asks her to tell the truth. Sarah answers that she is telling the pure truth. She explains that she knew about her grandfather's tragic cardiac arrest, so she was absolutely certain that this event was the key to his recovery and return to them, hoping that he would return to his former self. Sarah cuddles even closer to him, hiding her face in his chest, and admits that she was saddened to learn that her grandfather had already left this world. She thanks him for his help, and says that she is infinitely happy to see him alive next to her. Toru, feeling her trembling, gently strokes her head like a little girl and with a warm smile on his face, says that he is also very happy to see her and thanks Sarah for being able to survive in this difficult world. Sarah, unable to hold back her tears, says that in theory she should be older than him, but is surprised to realize that he has long outgrown her. Toru, agreeing with her words, replies that this is indeed true and that he is no longer young. Sarah, bursting into tears from the emotion, says that she is amazed at how strong he has become and that she did not expect to see him like this. Toru, confused, mutters that she must have imagined it and that he is not at all as she sees him, gently stroking her head, trying to calm her down and distract her from sad thoughts. Toru asks if she is hungry, offering her a snack. In response, Sarah says nothing, only continues to quietly snore, burying her face in his chest. Toru, full of love, tenderness, and care, looks at her with warmth, ready to support and comfort her at any moment. Morning comes in the boarding house of Uriel. The sun rises, the birds sing. Sarah sits next to the sofa where Toru lies and sleeps soundly. She looks at Toru curiously and waits for him to wake up. Toru opens his eyes and stands up, pulling Sarah towards him by the chin. The girl is surprised. Sarah automatically closes her eyes and waits with trepidation for something to happen. But Toru interrupts and says that she seems to be okay. Sarah pulls away from him and tells him that the landlady said breakfast was ready. Toru says that's how she met her before he introduced them. Sarah doesn't answer and yells to Uriel that Toru is awake. Toru gets up and goes down to breakfast. Sarah, at the table, says that she is eating for the first time in 25 years. Toru looks at her with indignation, and Uriel smiles and tells Sarah that she says amazing things. Toru apologizes to the landlady for bringing someone so suddenly. Uriel replies that it's okay because they both have to bother each other sometimes, and as a former adventurer, she's happy to support the newcomer. Toru looks at Sarah, who is eating her breakfast with gusto. She asks Uriel if she can become an adventurer. Toru sharply replies that she can't even imagine how hard it is. Sarah, with a wide smile and confidence, answers him that this is why she wants to help Thor. Silence falls. Thor does not answer anything. Sarah changes the subject and asks what kind of meat it is. She admires that it is so tasty. Uriel says that she is glad that she liked everything. Toru, meanwhile, reflects that he was trying to protect Sora from the trauma of the massacre that happened in their village. Then he wonders if he's just getting old, since everything is new to Sarah now. He watches Sarah happily interact with her new landlady. Toru suggests that after breakfast, they go and register her as an adventurer. Sarah is immediately happy with the offer. Toru says that before that they need something. She apologizes to Uriel. He asks if she could lend her armor until he buys something and that it won't be for long. Uriel says she hasn't used it in a while. She asks her if she minds. Sarah happily says she will take care of it. Uriel arrives with the armor and says that, as expected, the robe is turned yellow and the breastplate is moldy and rusty. She asks again if she really doesn't mind. Sarah happily thanks her, and Toru reaches out to her clothes and uses his recovery skill. Various memories pop up in his head along with these clothes. After that, the entire armor is restored and becomes new. Uriel is surprised and asks Thor what it was. Thor replies that it was his recovery skill. He apologizes to her if it surprised her. Sarah puts on the armor. Thor admires it, and Uriel tells her that it suits her, as if it was originally made for Sarah. In the end, Toru and Sarah leave the house calmly. In a city full of people busy with their own affairs, Toru and Sarah walk calmly. She looks at all the stalls and asks if today is the festival. Toru tells her to calm down because there are many people living in this old border town. The stalls are open every day. In the center of the world, a huge depression called the Black Hole appeared. The vapors rising from there covered the earth like a veil and created monsters. This land was called defiled because of the monsters and the impossibility of human life. The city was a buffer, protecting people from being taken over by the abyss. Toru explains that a long time ago, an army of monsters was here, but they were defeated, and those who took part in that battle gained experience. Sarah asks why there are so few adventurers here. Toru tells her that he came here to see the local adventurers. Then he stops abruptly and tells her that she can go from here alone. She turns around and asks worriedly why he is not going with her. Toru tells her not to worry because he will be watching so that his acquaintances do not become suspicious. Sarah thinks for just a second. Then the girl immediately sits down on the ground and groans in pain, saying that her stomach hurts a lot. Then she says that she thinks she will feel better if he takes her to that building. Toru looks at Sarah. Passers-by turn to look at Sarah with surprise and confusion. Toru exhales and says that only this time he will rejuvenate himself, and that around 25 years should be fine. Sarah yells at him to wait, and that he doesn't need to change his appearance. Toru says that the people around him don't think much of him, and if she's with him, nothing good will happen to her either. Sarah asks if he did something wrong. He replies that the point is that at his age, an old man like him is still a low-ranking adventurer, and that is not something to be proud of. Sarah indignantly shouts at him that she is proud of him. She quickly rattles off that she asked the landlady how hard it is to be an adventurer. Toru continues to look at her. and she says that a normal person wouldn't be able to last 25 years, and that if she were him, she would have given up already. Toru asks if it's even though he's such an old man. Sarah says he's a cool old man, so it's okay for her. Sarah takes his hand and pulls him along. They are standing by the board with an announcement that sorcerers are needed. A squad of 3 E-rank warriors. Someone urgently needs a water mage of D rank and above. They ask someone to respond within 2 days. Sarah asks him what it is. Toru replies that it is a notice board and that one can write a request or an invitation to join the squad here. Sarah says that's interesting. Then she asks Toru if he ever wrote anything. He says there was never a need. They are met by the same trio, with the blonde at the head looking at Sarah with interest. Sarah and Toru approach the worker. She recognizes Toru and asks if he's really back so quickly. He replies that he's just keeping an acquaintance company. Sarah excitedly says that she is glad to meet him and that her name is Sarah, and she is not an adventurer yet. She asks if Mr. Toru brought her. She asks what kind of relationship they have. Sarah quickly tells her that they are going to get married, but he covers her mouth with his hand and says that she is from his village, so he takes care of her. The worker looks closely at the document and says that she is only 17. Then she holds out a ball and asks her to touch it. Sarah asks what it is, and she says it is a tool called a soul analyzer. It will allow him to test his skills. She places her hand on the ball. Toru watches closely what is happening and sees a branch inside the ball. Toru thinks that before they came here, he checked Sarah's skill tree with his time flow perception ability. It shows more details than a normal soul analyzer. Reversal reverses the target's attack or effect at level 1. It can be used 5 times per hour and is activated by blinking. The worker says that the white tree is quite rare, and this is the first time she has seen this magic skill reversal. She says that even in their village, she was the only one who had one. If she uses it, any attack bounces back unless it's too fast. Toru recalls the events with a serious face relating them to her ability. His train of thought is interrupted by Sarah, who shows him her badge. She happily says that she has a badge just like his, and that they are like a couple. She is happy that she is now an adventurer, just like Toru. Suddenly, someone starts clapping for them. They turn around. The 3 of them congratulate Sarah on her registration, calling her baby. The second one says that it's just in time because they were just looking for a girl mage. One asks how about dumping that old man Grang and joining their squad, and that they will show her the ropes. Toru tells Sarah to go home. The blonde gets angry again and shouts that the old man was not given his word. He attacks him with his fist, but Toru easily dodges it again. Toru lightly touches his shoulder. After this, the blonde man, instantly losing his balance, falls heavily to the ground, plunging into a state of clouded consciousness. The people around him, panicking from what they saw, begin to scream loudly, asking what exactly Toru had just done. Toru, without stopping, repeats his actions and in the same way touches 2 more people who recoiled from him. The boys also fall sharply to the ground. Sarah, watching what is happening, looks at him with obvious delight and admiration, and Toru, turning to her, explains that he returned them to the state of strong alcoholic intoxication in which they were previously. They leave this place, and on the way, Toru, turning to Sarah, asks if she sincerely does not object to everything that is happening, considering that in the future there will be more such situations, and besides, she will have to fight dangerous monsters. Sarah, with confidence in her voice, reminds him that she had clearly expressed her desire to help Thor in everything this morning, and that she was genuinely happy to have the opportunity to walk next to him again, enjoying their walk together. She hugs him tenderly and then, with a slight smile, asks if this is really what Toru had been dreaming about deep down inside. She encourages him, urging him to tell his sister everything, expressing her confidence that she will definitely help him find a solution. Toru, looking thoughtfully into the distance, shares with her his desire to go somewhere far away from all this, admitting that for the past 25 long years he has invariably passed through the same entrance to the forest, as if in a vicious circle. Sarah, with genuine concern in her voice, asks him if he regrets that his life turned out the way it did, to which Toru, with a warm smile on his face, confidently replies that this is absolutely not the case. He, with genuine enthusiasm and a smile, tells her that he still wants to continue his path as an adventurer, full of surprises and new discoveries. Sarah extends her hand and invites him to be adventurers together. Thus, that day, the lone adventurer Toru finds a party in the company of Sarah. They joyfully walk into the forest against the backdrop of the sunset. In the goblin forest, Toru teaches a frightened Sarah how to go into the goblin forest. While Toru stood calmly and pointed his sword down, suddenly a mole with a horn jumps out of the ground. Sarah sees all this and points her stick at the monster. Toru hits the mole with one blow, but the animal does not die. It burrows into the ground again. Sarah asks if it has escaped. Toru says not yet. Next time, if she is ready, he asks her to try using her skill. Sarah says, holding the stick, that she will catch it this time. The mole suddenly emerges from the ground again and jumps towards Thor. Sarah looks at the mole. She uses her inversion ability, causing the mole to crash into the ground, bleeding. Sarah sees it and asks if it's a horned mole. Toru replies that it is, but she overdid it a bit because the horn is destroyed. Sarah apologizes to Toru, who approaches the monster and says that it's okay and that he'll fix it now. He uses a restore spell, after which the horn returns, but he himself continues to lie dead. Sarah tells him that he has revived him. He replies that this is impossible because the soul belongs to the god of creation. He can only restore the state of the body before death. He cuts off the mole's horn with his knife. Then he uses the recovery skill again, after which the horn appears on the mole's head again. Sarah understands and says that he does it cleverly. He continues to use the ability and multiply the horns. Toru says that their family has grown, so he needs to add at least a little to his income. Sarah is happy that Toru called her family. They leave together. Sarah says that she was actually surprised that Toru dodged so quickly. He says that he restores his body at different points of space. The more practice, the better he can move. Sarah guesses and says that's why he touched himself here and there today. Toru puts his hand on her face. Sarah blushes and doesn't understand why he's doing this. At this time, Toru looks at her ability tree and sees the spatial perception skill. She can analyze the target's space in detail. As he thought, Sora's ability to detect the horned mole's movements was too good. So it was her skill. A skill of perceiving space, unlike his perception of the time continuum. At this time, Sarah stands with her face ready for a kiss. But then Toru simply turns away and leaves. Sarah asks indignantly if that's all. Toru turns and asks what she's talking about. Sarah walks past him, offended. Toru thinks to himself that when he hunted alone, it took him 20 minutes. But now the fight only lasts 3 minutes. He looks around and says out loud that it seems like they can go further into the forest faster than he thought. They are sitting in a hollow tree. There is food in front of them. Sarah is happy that it is meat. She bites meat with great appetite and eagerly. In a split second, her expression changes, and she screams that he is salty, causing the other animals in the forest to turn around. She quickly grabs a bottle of water and drinks it greedily. Toru looks at her out-of-breath face with warmth and a smile. He says that first you have to cut the dried meat into thin slices with a knife, then wrap it around the cheese and cracker, and then eat it. He does all this. Sarah indignantly says that you should have warned her. Sarah tries it and says it's delicious. Toru asks her if she noticed anything on their way here. She replies that she was surprised at how easy it was, and that there is good visibility along the way. She also notes that the ivy and branches are cut back, meaning they are getting enough sunlight. Toru says she noticed, and that's great. He explains that the goblin forest adjacent to the city was declared a logging zone, and over time they created safe routes, trimmed the trees, and chased away all the animals. He says that there is now a beaten track leading to the very middle of the forest, to the logging sites, which are famous for their good timber. Sarah asks if they are forest orderlies then. Toru says that he would assume that they are pest exterminators. Toru asks her how many experience points she thinks she got in her water jug. She says she killed 3 monsters, so that's 3. Toru says it's only 1 point because they killed the mole and the bird together, so they didn't get any points for them. He explains that experience is divided by the number of participants in the battle and rounded down, so she only got experience for the slime she killed before dinner. He asks if she thinks life is hard. Sarah, meanwhile, thinks that Toru has been an adventurer for 25 hard years for her. She hugs him sharply and shouts that he is so cool. Toru smiles and says that's why he wants to go deeper into the forest today. She agrees. Toru suggests that once their skills wear off, He wants to look for the goblins that gave this forest its name. They walk through a forest full of greenery and old trees. Suddenly, they start to hear something. Toru warns her that goblins always hunt in groups of 2 or 3 to surround their prey, so she should not let her guard down. She obeys. A goblin comes out of nowhere and growls at them. The next second, he attacks him with his stick. Another one comes out of the bushes below, and another one jumps out of the tree. They head straight at them with aggression. Toru easily dodges their attacks and immediately strikes back. He kills and hits one goblin after another. The goblins continue to attack, screaming. He takes away one's eye. The other dodges his blow with a jump. The hero fights actively. Then Sarah enters the battle and kills this goblin. Sarah exhales and looks at the goblin corpses. She notes that they are very ugly up close. Toru hands Sarah a dagger and says that they need the right ear first, proof of pacification. She takes the knife and gets to work. Toru dictates that you then need to stick your fingers into the neck, right under the jaw, and look for a hard object. Sarah finds an object and asks what it is, if it is a goblin crystal. Toru praises her and says that she found a mana stone. Tan does not understand. Toru explains that it is useless on its own, but if you put it into a tool, it has many uses. Trading mana stones is one of the incomes of this city. Toru stands up and suggests that they kill as many goblins as they can before sunset. Sarah asks if he won't take the meat with him. Toru replies that goblin meat isn't very appetizing, so no one will buy it. Sarah replies that she understands and that it is such a shame. They eventually return to the Adventurers Academy, with Sarah happily walking ahead, talking over and over about the big win. The guard at the gate, the same blonde guy with long hair, tells Thor that he is early today and that if he is tired of collecting all sorts of dirt and is thinking about retirement. Sarah interrupts him, greets him, and thanks him for working so hard guarding the gate. He calls her a cutie. The guy asks Toru who the girl is. He panics and says that it's probably just a coincidence that she's walking with him. Sarah thanks him for always taking care of Toru, who stands at the gate in confusion and wonders when old people became fashionable. The blonde is indignant and tells his friend to say something. He sees that Riken, his friend, is not reacting and asks what is the matter and that he seems frozen. He awkwardly, looking away, answers that nothing is wrong. At this time, Toru tells Sarah that he will go to the butcher and she should go to the appraiser. She obeys. She arrives and sees that there is a line and is surprised that there is such a crowd. She hears talk about who they hunted. A group of guys discuss everything. One says that this is what happens when you get caught indiscriminately without thinking, and that if it weren't for him, the other one would have died long ago. They support him. Suddenly, they turn their attention to Sarah. They say she's a cutie. Sarah turns to them, says hello, and apologizes for overhearing their conversation. One of the guys says that it's okay because it was one of them who spoke so loudly. It's Hank, the guy with the long dark hair. Sarah says they got it. The guy says they are actually experienced adventurers. Sarah tells him that today is her first time out. He immediately says that there is a spot on the team. If she is into hunting, he recommends joining them. The girl from this group is indignant and asks why he suddenly invites her to join them. Suddenly, Toru comes up to them and asks Sarah if she is still in line. The guy angrily tells him why he is cutting in line. Sarah happily waves her hand at him. They don't understand anything. Toru apologizes and says that he is with Sarah. He walks forward, leaving the group completely bewildered. At the counter, the worker apologizes to Sarah for the wait and asks how her day was. Sarah replies that it was her first day on the job and she really enjoyed it. She lays out a pile of ears and horns, saying that this is the catch for the day. The group stands behind them in shock, not believing their eyes. The worker looks and lists: pacification of 2 forest slugs, 5 horned moles, 1 sharpbeak and 6 fluids, as well as goblins, for a total of 21 pacifications, plus the sale of 57 mana stones. She holds out the coins and asks to count them and accept them. Toru takes the bag and tells Sarah that they are going home. Sarah turns to the group and says that she appreciates them inviting her and asks to reveal the secret of killing goblins sometime later. At this time, the worker calls them and sees that they only have 4 goblins to pacify. They all hold out 1 goblin ear. The heroes go out into the street happy and joyful. Toru gives Sarah 1 large copper coin and says that it is her share. She thanks him and says that she does not need it because she already has many new things. Toru says that he would not have earned this money without her, and besides, she is a girl, so she needs many things, isn't that right? Sarah asks him if this is money for wedding planning. Toru flatly replies that it is not. She runs and invites him to go look at the shopping arcade. They walk between the counters. Sarah asks him what he would like to eat. She walks along and stops at a skewered razor bill and asks how about it. The vendor says it comes with honey sauce and that it's delicious. Sarah shouts that it looks delicious, so she wants to try it. She bought 3 pieces, which surprises Toru. Will she really eat all 3 pieces? She says no and holds out a shashlik on a skewer, asking him to open his mouth. He obeys and tries the shashlik. Sarah tries it herself and says it's delicious and tender. She wonders what it's made of. Toru says that it's the same thing. He suggests taking another one to give to the lady of the house. She agrees. At that moment, someone tells them that if they eat so much, they won't be able to fit through the door. The owner just happened to approach them. Toru says that when he met the owner in the morning, he asked her to take Sarah somewhere. Sarah asks if that is why they returned early from hunting. Eventually, they come to a public bathhouse. Sarah says that she has never bathed in a big bath before. Toru says that he thought that she would be tired after her first outing. He himself cannot accompany her, so he asked the owner. Sarah says she doesn't care, so maybe they should go together. Toru is surprised by what she just said. Ural tells her to go in quickly. They enter a public bathhouse and see numerous girls in front of them. Ural accompanies and says that the bathroom is in a certain place. Sarah runs towards her with her towel. They sit together in the hot bath. Sarah says how nice it is. In another room, Toru hears Urila's voice telling Sarah that she can't swim here. Toru smiles. After a while, they come out. First Thor, followed by Uriel and Sarah. Sarah thanks him for waiting. Sarah says that the sauna is absolutely amazing and that it was her first time there. She brags and says that her hair and skin are so smooth now. Toru says that she is so beautiful that he didn't recognize her right away. Then Ural asks him to step aside for a minute to talk. Ural says that it seems that Sarah only has one set of clothes. They end up at the store. The female worker is surprised to see Miss Ural and asks what they are picking up today. Ural tells her that she would like to buy clothes for these guys. Ural tells the guys that it is a bit hot now, so what do they think about linen and cotton? Toru awkwardly replies that she knows better. The woman says she can offer them some wonderful grana fabric. Sarah asks if she can see what else they have in the store. The worker says of course she can. While the worker is measuring their size, Ural asks when it will be ready. She replies that she is not very busy now, so tomorrow for the young man and in 3 days for the lady. Sarah is walking around the store and sits up abruptly when she notices something. Toru comes up to her and asks if something is wrong. Maybe her stomach hurts. She holds out the fabrics and asks which one is better. Toru replies that the sky-colored fabric will suit her. She is happy and says that she thought so. She approaches the worker and asks if she can buy this fabric for this money, showing the bag. The worker says that there are 94 copper coins and that she can only sell a small section for that price. Then Toru hands Sarah more coins and asks if that's enough. Sarah asks if that's possible at all. Toru replies that if he is with her, they can earn a lot more, so he shouldn't worry. Sarah thanks him and says that she loves him. In the end, Sarah leaves with the headband. Ural says she is glad Sarah is feeling better. Toru says she has always been like this. He asks her if she is causing her too much trouble. Ural says she is not, and that she is like in the stories. He smiles and asks if she can see it now. She agrees and says that Sarah shines brightly. On the way, Ural says that they will hope that everything will work out without extremes. Thor agrees with her, while Sarah happily walks with a new headband. In the goblin forest, Toru yells at Sarah to be careful because a goblin is running that way. Sarah kills the goblins one by one with her power. But the goblins never end, jumping out and attacking from different sides. One jumps out from behind Sarah. He is killed by Toru, who thrusts his sword into his mouth. Sarah sees this and sighs with relief. Toru and Sarah have been gathering more and more every day, making the subjugation of goblins their main objective. Sarah asks Toru to use her restoration skill to clean the dried blood off of her. They find a plant. Sarah asks if it is the bitter herb he was talking about. Toru replies that it is indeed it, an ingredient for a healing ointment. It cannot be grown in the city, so it can be sold profitably. Toru tells her to cut off just the top, so it will grow back in 3 days. Sarah is surprised and says that this means it can be picked many times, if you remember where it grows. Toru tells her that this can only be done now, because when the summer passes, the picking season will end. They return to the gate. They meet the disgruntled blonde again and pass by. The blonde's friend looks at them suspiciously. Sarah tells Thor that they have a good catch today. He agrees and says that the haul is good enough to attract unwanted attention. An unknown man surrounded by guards looks at them. Sarah and Toru continue to look at the important man in armor. Toru notices a silver plaque on him, indicating that he is a B-rank man. The man asks Rikan if it is him. Rikan nods. The blonde is indignant that he whispered something behind the back of an important person. The man tells Thor that there has been a complaint that he is exploiting a novice adventurer by posing as a guide. He asks him to follow him. Sarah suddenly wants to object, but Toru tells her that everything is fine and that it won't be for long. They leave, the blonde shaking with anger at Rikan. He shouts at him that he did not think that he would report to the security headquarters about them. He continues to speak to him in a disrespectful manner. Rikan tells Carlos that he was in charge when he was an adventurer, but in this job he is his superior in rank, so Carlos must respect the chain of command. He asks if he really wants him to respect the one who reported his comrade. Rikan looks away and says that he was clearly in violation, so what's wrong with the gatekeeper reporting him and that he's after dirt, so Thor should know his place. Carlos starts to boil with anger. He hits Rikan in the chest and screams that this guy, unlike them, has worked hard all his life. Rikan looks down and sees that Carlos has no hand at all. Carlos screams that he really wants to interfere with him because of his envy. Then, in conclusion, Carlos angrily shouts at him that no matter how he looks at it, the only terrible person here is he, Rikan. Rikan tells him that Carlos himself always told him that it was time for Toru to retire. Carlos continues to shout that. Of course he says that. But Toru is as stubborn as a mule, so he will never retire. Roken says it's weird. Why is Carlos suddenly so protective of him? He looks away and says it's none of his business. Carlos remembers hunting together, Toru teaching him when he was a novice adventurer and didn't know anything. He tells Rikan that he can't even believe that Rank B was involved in this matter. Did they really go crazy at headquarters? Sarah and Toru, along with the guards, approach a special place. Sarah asks what it is. She is not answered. She directly asks Toru what it is. He answers that it is an emulator structure which is supported by built-in mana stones. Sarah asks in surprise if this is a training ground. The protagonist adds that both magic and traditional martial arts skills are blocked here if her opponents are not monsters. But even with monsters, only newly acquired skills can be used. The B-rank seeker takes up a sword. Toru asks him if he can listen to him first. Toru explains that he and the girl are partners because they are from the same village, so he is going to train her, not use her. The man says that if he really helps him, then the two of them can go out and fight him and prove their worth. Toru sighs. He says he doesn't want to dull his sword, so can he take the training one too? He tells him to do what he wants. Toru goes to the swords and picks one on top of the other, saying that won't do. He starts getting angry and asks how many more can he go through, let him figure it out quickly. Toru says that there isn't a single decent one here. He asks to look at the sword that his opponent took. He starts to get angry and think to himself that Toru is a completely incompetent worm, so why is he pretending to be like that here? Toru takes his sword in his hands, he examines it and says that this one is still okay. He even grinds his teeth in anger. In the end, they stand in front of each other. The judges tell him to come together. The enemy immediately takes a comfortable position for attack and is ready for battle. One says that he immediately raised the fighting spirit to full at the very beginning of the battle. The second says that Sir Russell's Battle Guardian feature was granted by the god of fire Raphaelite. Russell thinks to himself that Toru will fall with one blow from him. Toru tells Sarah to watch closely what is happening, and she immediately replies with a smile that she is watching him. Russell wonders if Toru is going to fight him a B rank, one-on-one. He yells at Toru that he is a low ranker and swings his sword, but nothing happens. Here he realizes that he can't use his martial arts. Here, Toru doesn't miss the opportunity and attacks him. He loses his vigilance and suddenly receives a blow to the stomach with a sword. Russell lands on his knees, breathing heavily. The guards scream in shock. Toru holds out his sword to his neck and says that they will go then. He stands up and tells Sarah to come with him. Suddenly, Russell feels his fighting spirit return. He immediately calls down a fire strike towards them. Toru suddenly shouts Sora's name. The barrier is triggered, the fire goes back to Russell. He groans in pain and falls on his back, because he's burning in his own fire. The guards run to him and in a panic, ask the others to bring water. On the way, Sarah looks back once. Later, when they were eating shashlik at the table, Sarah asked him what he had done. He raised his head. Sarah says that when Russell picked up the sword, he looked surprised. She asks if it was because he couldn't ignite the sword. She adds that Toru also disliked him. She had never seen him make a fool of anyone. Toru reveals that, in truth, when he handed over the wooden sword, he restored his skill tree through it. Sarah is surprised, asking if he can really do that. It's amazing in her opinion. When Toru saw Sarah's ability tree, it occurred to him to redesign his own skill tree. If one can see the past, then the skill tree can also be denied by restoration. So he tried to shorten his recovery tree a little. Then the spent skill points returned to the jug. Sarah says that he can then roll back the skill tree as much as he wants and grow other branches that he likes. Is that true? Toru replies that you usually can't redistribute branches. Then Toru adds that that's the catch. It's because their skill trees only have one branch each. Sarah sighs sadly. Toru says he won't use it much because if you know what it is, you can easily counter it. Sarah asks if that's why he made him angry so he wouldn't notice. Toru replies that it worked because it was a sword fight. The first time he passed the sword, it rolled back his martial arts branch at the end. When it touched his shoulder, it restored everything back. They walk home. On the way, Sarah asks him what he will do if they come again. He replies that the violation was far-fetched. Someone was jealous of them because of the loot. But if they slow down, they won't be touched for now. He says that the adventuring world revolves around ability. So if everyone knows a person is strong, fewer people will cross their path. Sarah worries that if everyone knows he is so strong, women will hunt him, so she asks him to stop. At this time, Toru is thinking about his own things and says that he seems to have guessed who sent rank B after them. He says it's very problematic, but he'll have to talk to them soon. Sarah gets worried and asks if it's a woman. He says it's not. Toru walks alone down the street while the rest of the townspeople are enjoying their time. He passes people who are eagerly playing musical instruments. He is in the spacious tavern, Choi's Diner. He enters through one door. He is greeted very warmly by one man. Inside, there are other important and beautifully dressed people. Two men, arguing enthusiastically with each other. And the woman turns her attention to him. There is a young man next to her. This prince says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Asks what wind brought him here. The second one also says with a smile how many years, how many winters have passed since their last meeting. He sits down and says that it's true that they haven't seen each other for a long time. He asks one of them how she's doing and that she, as always, looks so wonderful that he doesn't even know what to look at. A man named Stratia from rank A, who is a member of the group Platinum Flame, is indignant that he, as always, ignores him and always hits on the second one, like a real heartthrob. Toru says that they are in the Platinum Flame and they spend time in this dive anyway. Stratia says that he doesn't have to emphasize it because it's impolite. They are only close because they studied under the same teacher. The girl's name is Ninisa. She has a scar on her neck from a burn. Toru orders country-style potatoes and sausages. The waiter immediately takes the order and brings the food. Toru tries it all and says that everything is delicious, as always. The waiter smiles at him. The old man with the beard continues to argue and shout at the other man that this is why, as he said, he won't last long using this method. Stratia says that the teacher seems to be in a bad mood. Daden is the head of the Adventurers Bureau of the border town. He says that one must manage finances wisely and start multiplying with average amounts. Otherwise, he will do the same as any fool from the neighboring village. Sako, the deputy head of the Adventurers Bureau of the border town, asks the teacher what he will do with such funding, since they are required to deduct 30% for the maintenance of the army alone. Dadan takes a sip from his mug and says that he knows they have no money. Even the repair of the outer wall will not last long. Sako says that he has no money either. If the strategy works, then there will be prospects for many expensive orders. Toru asks the other two what strategy he is talking about. Stratia replies that he means that it is time to shine a shining light on the fallen ruins. Toru asks Ninisa if she can translate this into human language. She says that the essence of the strategy is to capture the northern region of Basilaya, which fell last year, and this is planned for tomorrow. Toru says that's why the bureau was so crowded this morning with A and B ranks. They must have been called up. Daden clucks his tongue and says that he can rely on a strategy with an unknown probability of a positive outcome, and that iron will not become steel unless tempered. Sako says it's not that he doesn't want to attract talented newcomers, but the talent and its bearer need to match each other, and he keeps his eyes on Tora. The Don says that this is why he got angry with Tora, and that he really does not shy away from any methods. Then Daden turns to Thor and asks if he is really going to remain silent and not answer anything, since that is what he came here for. Sako tells him that he got a girl with a rare talent. He asks if it's time for him to let her go. Toru says that's what he wanted to talk about. He asks Sako if he could please not bother them. Sako says that this is not even up for discussion. He believes that talents should work together with talents, and they will not develop their skills when paired with untalented people. Ninisa says that it seems like someone is talking nonsense. Sako's eyes widen at the sight of Ninisa. He asks in surprise what happened to the scar on her neck, and she doesn't understand either. The girl suddenly begins to examine herself. Stratia looks suspiciously at Tora. He removes the bandage from one eye and says that he, cursed by magic, will demonstrate a fraction of the power that is bestowed on the eye. Toru looks straight into Stratia's eyes. Then he immediately says, asking for forgiveness, that it was his doing. Stratia laughs and says that he gave in so quickly and that there was no resistance. Ninisa asks Stratia to slow down. Ninisa asks him what he meant. He says that he simply restored it to this level. If she doesn't like it, he will return everything to how it was. Ninisa says with a smile that no need, she doesn't even know how to thank him. Sako says he understands that he can heal an old wound. He asks what else he can do. Tora replies that he can do all sorts of things. Sako tells Daden that maybe it's time for him to retire. He's already quite old. Isn't he afraid of overworking himself? Daden indignantly shouts, "What is he talking about? As long as his eyes are purple, he won't get a position as a boss." Toru orders a portion of turnips with tenderloin and a drink. The waiter obeys him. Dada tells him why he is so frivolous. They are actually discussing something important here. Suddenly the plate is filled with food again. Everyone looks at it in shock. Sako says he understands. It all depends on how exactly you use the skill. He apologizes for his disdainful attitude. Then Daden notices something and shouts, "What is going on here? What does he have to do with it?" Ninisa says that something is happening to his head. He panics and asks what is wrong with it. He puts his palms to his bald head and suddenly notices that numerous thick hairs have appeared on it. Toru says that despite what he said, he made him look younger. He asks what he just said, how so? Then Daden says that apparently he really did spend a long time developing this useless skill. Sako says that, let's say, he knows how to make them shut their mouths, okay? He suggests that they lock him in the interrogation room at the bureau for now. He says that if someone spills the beans about this skill, a crowd of priests will flock to them and start pestering them, and not just them, but soon others who want hair will join them. Daden says that if this happens, he will have to hide, even lock himself in his house, and all because of his favorite student. Stratia says that it looks like this will be retirement. Stratia asks, then why don't they have a farewell party? Thor is handed his food. He says he has two conditions. The first is that they leave them alone. The second is that they remove those who decide to interfere with them. That's all he asks for. Sako asks what they will get in return then. Toku first asks him to give him time to think. Then he says that if they give him 6 months, he will prove to them that he can achieve the same position as the two of them. Stratia smiles, anticipating something. Sako asks him if it is not too ambitious for a low rank. He says that if he gives him his partner, it is quite possible that he will be able to speed up their progress. Toru replies that he can't do that. Even with his connections and ability to push people, he can't cultivate talent. He adds that he's too gifted and everything comes easy to him. So he demands too much from others. He thinks to himself that in reality, none of his people have risen to A rank in the last 10 years, except for 2 of the Platinum Flame. He is talking about Ninissa and Stratia. Daden laughs, saying that he will finally get his say. Sako says that on the other hand, their director really likes being a retired adventurer, and so he created a trend of all adventurers retiring early. Daden is indignant at his words. Toru tells them that he's not here to piss them off. He just wants to keep doing what he's always done. The Dan tells him that he is, as always, not particularly mercantile. He offers him resignation and that he can live with them. He replies that he does not want to resign, but he will consider it if he asks with all his heart. Dadan says that he probably still wants to be a field adventurer. He asks how long he plans to do this. Toru says that he wants to develop further. He says that one day he will reach the same heights as them. Toru thinks to himself that the ceiling of the great gates of the miasma of the underground labyrinth falls on these 2, and that the best positions are occupied by the 2 people who saved the world. He is thinking about the honorary title of Great Hero. Stratia hugs Toru and says how much he likes these far-reaching plans, some of which he is not included in, which he emphasizes. He says that he will be looking forward to Toru. Dadan sees this and says that he should remain an adventurer as long as he can and leave the rest to him. Sako thought, looking at what was happening around him. Sako muses. Judging by the way Russell was knocked out, there's something fishy going on here. It's bad politics for the director to stay on his side. Sako says he accepts the terms. He'll tell his subordinates to keep their hands to themselves. But despite all that, he should be relatively aware of his progress. Toru calmly says that he is glad that he accepted his conditions. He leaves the coin and gets up from his seat. He says that since the discussion is over, he asks to be allowed to leave. Datnyan gets up and asks what he is doing. It is still a child's time. He suggests that they sit and reminisce about the past. Toru simply leaves. The waiter asks him to come again with a smile, and Daden remains indignant that he was not listened to. Sako asks Daden if he is really going to let him go like that. Daden says yes, because he has always been stubborn and has never listened to anyone. He asks if that is true because he will not admit defeat. Sako says that is not what he means. He asks Daden with interest whether they will even let him into the house with such hair. Toru and Sarah come to the worker with a cart. She looks and is amazed by their catch today, as many as 2 giant caterpillars. Toru tells her to sell one whole, split the other in half, sell half, and cut up the other. They come out with money and meat. Sarah says she is hungry. She suggests they go home early and fry the meat. Toru tells her not to rush so much because he wants to take her somewhere today. He says that they got a lot of meat and that they will definitely like it. They come to a dark corner. Toru places the meat on the floor and tells Sarah to watch. 2 cats run out. Sarah looks at them in surprise. Toru asks them for forgiveness for being late. Sarah asks if he was talking about these cats. He says yes, and that he often feeds them here, but hasn't been here for a long time. Sarah starts petting the cat and says that she helped with hunting too. Toru tells her to leave him alone while he's eating, but the cat is crawling towards her with affection. Sarah is happy and tells Thor to look at his contented face. He is surprised. The second cat also cuddles up to Sarah. The girl asks if the cats are enjoying it. Toru thinks that he fed them for 6 months so that they would get used to him. Sarah stands up and feels a strange feeling. He tells Thor that there is something interesting here and that they are apparently being watched. He hears nothing. Then Sarah shouts at him to see where her catch is. He turns his head and sees that Sarah is holding a little girl in her arms. Toru is shocked. Sarah says that they are playing hide and seek. Is she really a local child? Toru wonders in surprise. Is this really the third one? The girl says that she shouldn't eat moo because it's not tasty. Sarah says that she won't eat it and asks about its name. Moo's stomach rumbles, and the child says that he heard something about it being tasty. He sees cats eating and rushes in on them. Mew catches Toru and lifts him up. He asks if he has been eating with the cats all this time. He twitches and says that it is his food. Toru asks about his parents. He is silent. Toru starts saying that there is not enough for all the homeless and that he is sorry. Sarah tugs at his arm with a pitiful look. He exhales and says that he will have to ask the owner's permission. Sarah tells Mew to come with her. Mew asks what they will do with him. Sarah asks if he doesn't want to eat something good. Sarah says her name and then introduces Toru. She says Mew can call her big sister. Mew learns their names, making a mistake in Toru's name. Mew says that he wants to eat, and he asks the child not to call him that. Finally, Toru, Sarah, Moo, and 2 other cats come home. The owner says that they have nice guests today. Toru says that they seem to have become attached to him. He asks permission to stay for a while and look after them here. The owner agrees and asks if she should heat up the bath for them. He replies that they would be very grateful. Mew asks where the food is then. Toru replies that he needs to be washed first. Mew asks if they really decided to eat him. Mew ends up being a girl. Sarah asks if they can't clean the dirt with Restore. Toru replies that he tried scanning her skill tree, but the result was 0. It seems she hasn't earned any points for monsters yet. Sarah says she'll try to be good. They start washing her. Mew laughs and yells that she's ticklish. Sarah asks her not to twitch. Toru says it's weird that she doesn't have lice or anything. Sarah says the cats didn't have fleas either. Toru sees scars on Mew's body and wonders what they are from. Sarah tells Mew that she has such cute purple eyes. Toru says that this is a characteristic of the Purple Eye tribe. He holds the lamp up to Mew and tells Sarah to look. Toru says that they are very good at finding their way in the dark. Sarah happily says that it is wonderful. Ural hands Mew her old things and tells her she can have them if she wants, calling her Mumu. Sarah corrects her. Toru says that the Violet Eye tribe often uses repetition in their names, so that's also correct. He explains that boys use double letters in their names, and girls use repeated syllables, so her real name must be something like Lamumu or Mumulele. He says that they have such a tradition because they consider the thunder god Jijiro as their patron. They try to create similar names, hoping to receive his blessing. Mew changes her clothes and asks Toru how she looks. Toru says that she was able to dress properly and that it suits her. They start eating. Sarah says that today she is so hungry from her righteous labors. They wish each other a pleasant appetite, and Mew impatiently asks if it is time to eat. They start eating. Mew takes a bite of meat and says it's delicious. Toru tells her to chew well and that no one will take her food away. Sarah agrees with Mew and says that it is simply delicious. The ham is the most delicious, in her opinion. She wanted to suggest taking something with her on the hunt tomorrow, but Toru tells her to chew properly, take her time, and drink water with her food. Sarah obeys and drinks the drink. Ural thinks to himself that if only Thor could have met these children sooner. She notices something and asks Sarah if something is wrong. Sarah apologizes and says she just noticed, but her ears are longer than usual. Ural says she is from the Ashir tribe. Sarah says she thought so, that she is from far away. Toru explains that the mistress's homeland is in the north, and that he heard that their ears have become longer to better hear on the plains of snow. Ural says that this is not true, and that it is to better hear the teachings of the ice god Stragon. Toru apologizes. Ural adds that this is what they are told. After all, they are often teased as gray rabbits. Ural asks if Sarah knows much about other countries. Sarah apologizes and says that they grew up in a remote village. Ural tells her that if she wants, she can teach her little by little. Sarah readily agrees and says that she would be very grateful. Ural begins to tell that hundreds of years ago, a huge hole opened in the ground, and overnight, the country disappeared into it. From the great abyss, various monsters emerged and the world turned into complete chaos. Long ago, there was a large country in the center of this continent. This country was technologically advanced, and its inhabitants lived a peaceful and prosperous life. The refugees scattered in all directions, settling in remote regions. Eventually, people blessed by the powers of the 6 great deities began to appear, and a population of the central region, where people like Thor and Sarah live, began to appear. The central region is under the protection of all 6 divine powers. Sarah says she was surprised when she saw people with horns or scales. She now understands where they come from. Tora says it's mainly because they rarely visit their village. Ural asks Toru what his plans are for the future. Toru replies that at first he wanted to feed Mu and send her away, but he thinks he will look after her for a little while longer. He remembers that his teacher also had purple eyes. The night passed peacefully. Toru goes to the armorer Ram, who greets him joyfully, saying that he hasn't visited them for a long time. And is he really looking for something? Toru says he came to place an order. He asks if they are busy now. Mew and Sarah came with him. Ramu says that people usually don't take good care of their gear and then bring it in a tattered condition for repair. He punches Thor lightly in the chest and says that he takes excellent care of his things. Everything is in perfect condition. He wants to check if he really came to place an order. Toru says that he urgently needs a new pair of shoes. Ramu asks if this is an order for this child. Toru calls them and asks them to at least say hello, and that the owner of the store may look a little scary, but he knows his business. Sarah greets him and says that she is his future wife. Ramu wonders when he managed to get married and even have a child. Toru says that he is just looking after the daughter of a friend, and he only picked up the child yesterday. Ramu thinks and calls Mew a boy, saying that he will now take the measurement of his foot, so let him come to him. Sarah says that it is a girl. They take measurements. Ramu says he will make it so that there is a little room for growth. Will the boots fit them? Mew asks Toru what it's for. He says it's to keep her feet from getting dirty. Toru asks if it can make the soles of her feet soft like a cat's paw pads. Ramu says that this is his request. He will try using a soft material. Toru reminds that Ramu was grumbling about a coat that was cancelled, made of hippopotamus skin. Ramu says that he is talking about the coat that he did not sell. Ramu asks him sharply if he is going to drag this child along with him on his forays. But he doesn't answer. Ramu makes a hand gesture, saying he wants to talk outside. Mew follows suit and asks what he is doing. Is this a greeting? Sarah says that the gesture means he wants to talk outside. The two come out. Ramu starts shouting, what on earth did he think of? He orders equipment for a child who, judging by the look of it, won't last long in combat conditions. He knows that Ramu doesn't like bad work. Toru says that she may be small, but she has talent. Ramu starts to object, saying that he knows that Toru won't lie for the sake of it, but his speech is interrupted by Toru, who says that he will now show him a trick, but he asks not to tell anyone about it. He takes the leather armor in his hands. Ramu is worried and says that it requires serious repairs, so he should not just touch it. He uses his skill and hands Ram a new and clean armor. He can't believe his eyes and says there isn't a single scratch. Ramu spreads his arms enthusiastically. Mu asks if this is also a sign of greeting. Sura replies that it means he has given in to the argument. Ramu tells him that he doesn't understand anything. It's clear as day that it wasn't a trick. But the armor was in terrible condition. He asks what he did. Toru replies that this is his skill and that he trained it and can now do something like this. Ramu asks if this is true. He rejoices and shouts that it finally happened, that he was finally able to do it. He quickly pats Toru on the back. Then he calms down abruptly and says that he is probably overjoyed, and that with such a scenario he could lose a good half of his earnings. Toru assures him that he is not going to compete with him, and that he will continue to adventure with them. He adds that this skill can be applied to humans as well, so he doesn't have to worry. Mu won't die that easily. He finally asks what he thinks and if he'll take the job. Ramu already confidently and contentedly says that then he will try to do something special for her. Toru picks up the other armor, swings his hand, and completely restores it. Ramu takes the armor in surprise and says that the damage to the hippopotamus skin armor has also disappeared. He asks to wait and asks what happened to the patch then. He understands that it is possible to fix the diverging seams, but how did he deal with the torn-out pieces? Toru says that such is his restoration skill that he can restore some of the lost material. He asks in surprise if that is really true. Toru starts talking about what if he could get dragon skin armor. Then he seriously says that no, it's not that scarce, but the skin of a white ferret. What does he think about it? Because it's also very valuable. Toru suddenly says that actually his recovery skill has a limit. He studied its capabilities by cutting the horn of a horned mole. Its limit is to restore 30% of what is missing. Sometimes even a small piece is difficult to recreate. He believes that this is because the brain does not represent the finished form of the object and perceives its current state as complete. Ramu then asks if this means that the bigger the armor he gets, the greater the benefit will be. They shake hands in a brotherly manner, and Mew and Sarah have been watching him through the window the whole time. The group of 4 people are standing in the Adventurers Bureau. The long-haired one asks Rickle if he heard that the old man they encountered was actually something. Rickle asks if that's true. The third one adds that he heard something like that too. There's a rumor that he even won Brang. The girl doesn't believe it and says that it sounds like a fairy tale. The guy says that the girl with him used some cool skill that no one knew about. Rickle asks if it's that cutie. Suddenly, their conversation is interrupted by Mew's scream, asking what kind of place this is. Everyone turns around. They see Toru coming in with the child. The girl asks where the child came from. The guy with a red face says that Sarah and Toru are a boy and a girl. One says that they don't look like relatives. Rickle says that she called him daddy. They don't understand and continue to follow them, wondering what's going on. Maybe it's the stepdaughter. Toru asks Mew to keep his voice down and that this place is called the Adventurers Bureau. Mew repeats the name and says that the owner told her something like that. She asks if this is really his job. Sarah leans over and says that as her teacher, she will show her around. Mew points to the bulletin board and asks what it is. Sarah explains that it is a bulletin board and that people write there what someone wants or suggestions to do something together. Mew immediately asks if she can write something on it. Sarah immediately agrees. Toru doesn't even have time to complain. Mew stands on his tiptoes but still can't reach. Toru picks up the child and asks if it's comfortable. Mew happily draws 5 people on the board. They ask her what it is. She points to the biggest one and says it is Toru, and next to him is Mu holding his hand. Sarah points to the smaller ones and asks what it is then. Mu says it is Koro, the black cat, and Shima, the tabby cat. Sarah points to a particular person and asks if it's her. She says no, it's the owner. Toru asks if she's finished. Then they'll go to the desk. Sarah asks worriedly why she's not there. Mew is undergoing adventurer registration. The worker asks if she can handle it since according to the document, she is only 9 years old. Toru says that the minimum age for an adventurer, according to the established requirements, is 8 years old. He also adds that this girl is a magician and that she will not need to get close to monsters. The worker says that, unfortunately, she cannot allow this. Toru asks if he can hear the reasoning. She explains that the Purple Eye Tribe's lightning magic does not have a lower branch that is responsible for the basic attack skill, so Mew's default starting skill is rare electric detection. Using the owner of such a skill to detect monsters will prevent her from advancing in development, so she cannot give permission for it. Toru asks again if it's because she won't be able to earn skill points, and the worker confirms it. Toru says there's no need to worry about it because they'll figure it out once they scan her skate tree. The worker looks at him with annoyance. She places a ball in front of her and asks her to put her hand on this analyzer. She reaches out and puts her hand, moving with the ancestral tree of purple lightning bestowed by the deity of lightning. Her available skills are Electric Spine. Toru says that Electric Spine is a passive magic skill that allows her to counterattack the attacker. It will allow her to gain points. The worker awkwardly says that there shouldn't be any problems then, so she will give her an adventurer's token now. Mew extends his hand to him. Toru squeezes her hand in the same brotherly way he did when talking to Ramu. She's given a token. Toru says that now everything is ready for the sortie. Then he stops abruptly and asks where Sarah is. They see that Sarah is still drawing on the board and says that she is still drawing. She is leaning on a chair. They approach her. Toru goes further. Sarah says that everything is ready and that it is better this way. Mew looks back at the board for a second and goes further. Toru shouts to Sarah that they are already leaving. Sarah starts to Sarah that they are already leaving. Sarah starts to get indignant since when did this start? The board now shows Sarah herself holding Mew's hand with a wide smile. Sarah runs towards Thor and Mew. Mew clenches her fist tightly and shouts that everything is fine. Tori watches her and sees a huge amount of electricity forming around Mew. Sarah is surprised and asks what it was. She comments that it is so beautiful. Tora tells her that it is a magic called Electric Spike. It counterattacks the opponent when attacking the user. Mew says that the itching is gone now. Sarah then tells her that it seems that she doesn't have any more fleas. Toru places his palm on Mew's head and checks her skill tree. Electric Spike. When attacking the user, it automatically counterattacks the enemy. When using recovery on an electric spike branch, the bud will return to 0 level. Mew had this skill from birth, and on the tree, as Toru himself notes with a smile, there are only 3 buds. Toru says that it is excellent and now suggests that she try it in his eyes. She looks up and Sarah watches the movements carefully. She guesses why Mu would look into his eyes. Suddenly, Sarah has a strange feeling. She turns around and wonders where the same feeling as in that alley comes from. Mew immediately looks down. Toru asks her if something is wrong because a moment ago she was so cheerful. Mew asks in response with concern if Toru will be angry with her. Sarah is worried and does not understand what is going on. Toru tells her that everything will be fine and that he won't be mad at her. In fact, he's even happy that you want to do this. Mew asks again if this is true. Toru sits down, strokes her cheek, and tells her that she doesn't need to worry so she can look at him again. She looks at him with a smile, and the next second, she finds herself at her own tree. She says, "What a strange tree grows here." Toru says that he's glad that everything went well. He asks her what she sees among the roots. Mew asks if he means that round thing. Toru tells her that it is her special ability of feeling exchange. Feeling exchange allows one to exchange feelings and emotions with a target that is active all the time. This ability has great effectiveness and works in the field of vision. Toru suggests that she most likely began living with cats because she was afraid of using this skill. It's hard to find someone who was born with a spiritual instrument. Those around her must have seen her as a child of evil. They return to the forest. Toru asks her if she is doing well. She doesn't answer and immediately hugs Toru with a sleepy Sarah sitting in the background. Toru suggests trying again. He asks if she can see the 3 buds on the trunk, and she says she can. Toru explains that to raise the level of the middle bud, she must pour this vessel of water onto the roots. Mew obeys, picks up a large vessel of water and pours it all onto the roots of the tree. Immediately after this, a branch begins to grow on the tree. Mew screams that something strange has grown, a branch in the shape of an arrow with a curved base. An electric radar shows the direction and distance to the enemies located nearby. Toru asks her if she will try to use it. She happily replies that, of course she will. In the background, Sarah watches all this with interest. Mew clenches his fists, closes his eyes, and then when he opens them, numerous electric arrows fly in different directions, enveloping trees and flying past people. Mew shouts, pointing her finger somewhere that she felt something in that direction. Toru listens to her and offers to take a look. Sarah doesn't understand and asks, asking to wait. What is happening and why she can now use 2 skills? Toru turns around and puts his index finger in front of his mouth, asking him to be quiet. Sarah asks in a whisper if Mew really has 3 skill buds. Mew runs to the place and says that here it is. It is a slug crawling on a tree. Toru picks Mew up in his arms, giving him a knife. Toru tells her to aim at that spinning round cannonball. She must destroy it. Mew hits it and kills it. Toru praises her, saying that it is a good job. Mew asks if she did a good job. Toru replies that yes, it was just great. He comes to the conclusion that it is more convenient than he thought, especially for a limited skill. Sarah comes and pats Mew on the head, saying that she has dealt with him, but her little sister is not going to lose to her. Toru tells Mew that she is doing great, but the next step will be very difficult. Mew confidently says that there is no problem and that she will definitely handle it. Toru says that's great then suggests that she go back to the tree and take a look. Toru tells Mew to try growing the top bud this time. Mew happily obeys and pours a vessel of water onto the roots. The bud grows. This is a lightning needle which increases the user's speed and agility. Toru asks her again if he wants to try. Mew is already preparing for it and summons a thunderstorm. Small lightning bolts came out of her body and stayed there. Sarah says it looks so painful. Is it really safe? Toru asks her how she is. Does she feel pain? Mew replies that everything is fine, there is no pain. She just feels some strange feeling. Toru holds small stones in her hands and tells her to try to dodge them then. He lightly throws them one after another. Mew easily dodges without much effort. She even missed the last stone, leaning her body back. Sarah says in admiration that it is incredible and that she dodged them all. Mew raises her hands and shouts joyfully that she was able to awaken a new power. Toru says that it was a great job and that he did even better than he expected. Mew hugs him. Toru asks her if she can now share this power with him. She immediately says yes, but But how can she do that? Toru says that she probably never did a reverse exchange of feelings. Tae doesn't understand what reverse means. Toru remembers Sarah's words about those cats not having fleas at all. He tells her that it is true, if you don't count Miu's mange, then why weren't those cats in that condition? Miu shouts that Kuro and Shiro are always with her. Toru smiles and asks if she would mind sharing with Toru too. She begins to think and act. Lightning also appeared on Toru's body. He asks if she could close her eyes and also cover her ears and nose. He tells her to share only the lightning needle with him. Miu says that it won't work all at once. She obeys him, closes her eyes and ears. Toru feels something and says that it's right on target. It worked. He checks and at high speed appears behind Mu and lifts her up. Toru says that's great and that they will start hunting. Sarah asks them to wait a minute and asks what about her, isn't she with them? Miu tells her that it is too early for Sarah. Sarah says no. She asks Miu to share with her too. She is ignored. Miu tells Thor that she is hungry. Toru gives her an apple and tells her to snack on it then. Sarah stays behind with a sad face. In the evening, they come to the Adventurers Guild office and place numerous goblin ears on the table. The worker is surprised and says that as far as she can see, Toru brings in more and more every day. The use of electric radar and lightning needle increase the number of enemies encountered, allowing for faster hunting. She hands them the money and says that there is 1 silver coin, 1 half silver coin, and 37 copper coins. They take the money and leave. The worker reflects that recently, most of the squads hunting goblins have not been doing particularly well, but at the same time, for some reason, Toru's squad has become better at exterminating them. She wonders how a squad of 50 people can even find 50 monsters in a day, let alone kill them. They walk home, Miu sleeping on Toru's back. Toru says that wandering around the forest and hunting all day must be very tiring for her. Sarah smiles and says that Miu was incredible, and that she was able to use those skills and switch between them even though she just learned them. After using the inversion skill 3 times, Sarah runs out of mana and finds it hard to breathe. Toru says that there's nothing that can be done about it since they have different mana reserves and inclination matters, and it also depends on the type of magic used, like Miu's electric spikes that got rid of her fleas. She probably increased her power by constantly using them on herself. He says that inversion can't be used unless a monster attacks her, but when that happens, Sarah is capable of a lot. Sarah tells him that she can carry Miu too, and besides, Toru must be tired. He thanks her and says that everything is fine and that when he is tired, Toru will let her know. Sarah tells him that he can rely on her. After all, she wants to get along better with Mu. Toru agrees and says that it's weird that she's the only one she dislikes. He suggests that perhaps she used the emotion swap on girls the same age as her in the past and something bad happened between them. Toru says that's why she shouldn't rush. She should just relax. Sarah says he's right. She thanks him for worrying about her. Toru says she has a favor to ask, and Sarah happily asks what it is. He asks if she slept with the cats last night, and Sarah says she did, and that the couple came to her and she was too hot to sleep. Toru asks how about trading Miu for 2 cats. Sarah says that the cats initially followed Miu into Toru's room, but in the middle of the night they started scratching at her door. Sarah says she's not exactly sure, but she thinks that's how it was. Sarah then suggests that she and Mu and the cats sleep together in her room. Since there is no room in her room, Sarah can sleep at Toru's. Toru refuses and says that his bed is too small and it will be hard to sleep. Sarah shouts at him that he is a liar because she knows that Thor can sleep anywhere. They approach Ural's house. In the border town of Dodon, at the main gate, many people see off the troops on their way. At Choya's establishment, Toru heard that all the high ranks had been sent to Bozalia for the operation to bring her back. In the Goblin Forest, the 3 of them continue hunting. Toru's every move is supported and protected by Mu's magic. They kill several caterpillars. Miu asks him in the end if he has dealt with everyone. He replies that he has dealt with them and that they are finished. He adds that hunting large caterpillars is like fighting mange, so the electric shield came in very handy. Sarah tells Miu that they need to get rid of this fur and asks her to help her make a fire. She replies that she is busy right now. She finally comes up and reaches out to the fur before Sarah can tell her not to touch the white fur because it will itch. Miu immediately trembles and screams that now she is itchy all over. He takes Toru's hand and says with a pitiful look that she is itchy all over. He uses recovery and rids her of the itch. Miu says it's much better now, and Toru tells her that Miu should listen to Saru. Saru says that Toru is like a real father now and asks if it's time for him to get a nice wife. Toru ignores her words and tells Miu that this is great and suggests that he deal with this white fur. They make a fire, telling Miu to be careful not to get burned. Toru shows that if you stick a branch into the fire will spread to it. She takes the stick and is surprised. They load the tracks into the cart. Sarah asks if this means the cart can't handle 3 at a time. Toru says that it is a rental item, and the rank of the magic stone is too low, but it is much easier to pull on it than to carry it in your arms. Toru notices Toru's sad face and asks what is going on. Is it really the caterpillars that have caught her interest? He assumes that she is thinking about caterpillar meat and whether it is tasty, and she confirms this. Toru suggests that they get home first, and if she gets tired, Toru will carry her. Mu is happy about this. They come to the gate. Carlos is standing there and asks him where he found this little girl. He wasn't on guard just yesterday. Sarah greets him and thanks him again for his hard work. Carlos says that Sarah is as sweet as ever and asks if she would like to have dinner with him. Sarah says what a wonderful idea. They would all love to go. Carlos says there is no need for overfamiliarity. Miu wakes up and asks if they are home yet. The first thing she sees is Carlos's eyes. Carlos asks what is going on. Is she not from around here? Carlos hits her in the forehead. She starts getting angry and screaming about what kind of stupid guy he is and what he's doing to Mu. Carlos says that to her he is Mr. Carlos and she doesn't understand how he knows Miu's name and that he is very suspicious. Toru simply agrees with her. They walk on, Toru shouting at him that they will see each other again. Carlos shouts after him that they are not finished yet. As a result, the bureau gives them 2 silver and 18 copper coins. A week has passed since the group with Sarah was formed. During this time, they were able to save 5 silver coins, and he was able to save the same amount in his bank account. It's a similar story with skill points. He and Sarah have about 150 points. Miu has about 70. If they continue at this pace, the 2 of them will be able to improve their skills to level 2 within 2 months. They walk past the stalls. Mu shouts that there is so much food here. Toru explains to her that it is for sale and that she cannot try it without money. Miu, hearing about the need for money, says what savages they are. Toru, surprised, asks where she learned this word. Sarah comes with a kebab and gives it to her. She opens her mouth and takes a bite with great appetite. Sarah hands over 1 skewer and 4. He asks where she bought them. He is surprised that she actually knows this place. Miu is happy and says that it is so delicious. Sarah tells her that there are lots of delicious things here. Silence falls. Toru looks at them. Toru suddenly says that there is a bathhouse nearby. He suggests that they go there together later. Sarah panics and says that she is not ready at all. Toru doesn't understand her and says that they are just going to wash up. Sarah replies that girls he knows have enough worries. Toru, after a moment of silence, replies that if she says so, then they should go back. He suggests taking the mistress with them after the horses have had a snack. They eventually arrive at a building. Mu is surprised to learn that it is a bathhouse. The girls leave separately. Toru says that they will see each other later. Miu starts to resist. Sarah says that the girls should go the other way. She screams that she wants to go with Toru. They end up changing clothes. Ural tells them to wrap a towel around themselves. While Sarah was giving the towel to Mu, she immediately disappeared. Miu is standing by the pool and says it's not that bad. She asks if she really needs to get in there. He tries to put 1 foot in and immediately winces because it's too hot. She angrily activates her ability and jumps into the water, screaming that she's not going to lose. Sarah grabs her from behind and tells her that they need to wash first. They sit on stools and begin to wash. Sarah and Mu are happily helping each other, rubbing their backs and pouring out water. Sarah tells Mu that they are in the foam again. Miu says that bathing is so much fun. They laugh and Sarah agrees with her. Ural helps them. They end up sitting in the pool. Sarah reflects that it's been a week since she returned to this world, but it feels like there's a big gaping hole left. The daily trips to the forest seem to tire her out. They certainly break up her routine, but she has nothing more to ask of the only person left who is most important to her. Sarah watches Mu swim and asks her if she loves her little sister. She replies that she doesn't know. Sarah says she understands and that Sarah loves her very much. Mew says she doesn't hate her sister. Mew sees a fan and asks what it is. Sarah says that it is called a fan, and that for 5 copper coins you can install a magic stone in it, and it will blow for 5 minutes. They are playing around near the fan. Urel hands them apple juice and drinks it with them. They leave the bathhouse. Urel apologizes to Thor for keeping him waiting. He replies that he too just left. He asks if Mew behaved well. Mew starts to say that the opponent was quite strong, but she doesn't plan on losing next time. Sarah says that she feels like she was reborn, so she will try her best tomorrow. Toru tells her that it's not true because they have a day off tomorrow. Did he forget to tell her that? Later, in the house of Uriel, a man approaches Thor. He bows and asks, begging forgiveness if he could help him. It is his teacher, Dodden. Toru asks if he really wants him to restore the stone wall in the end. Dodden says that when he asked the temple of the earth god Gaidaros to do this, they asked him for 10 gold coins. Dodden asks if he could do him a favor. In addition, he will give him all the devices on the magic stones that he used. Toru asks why such a sudden request. Dodden explains that 9 years have passed since the monsters attacked this city. Everyone is gradually beginning to forget about it, and that they do not feel any danger. Toru remembers what happened 9 years ago and agrees with him. He says that it will be bad if he fixes it all at once, so it will be better to start with first aid. Dodden is happy and says that he relies on him. He says that the main forces have now set out on an expedition to Basalaya and several reports have arrived. Toru asks if the number of goblins has increased. Dodden is surprised and asks if he knows about it. Despite the excellent work of the electric radar, the number of goblins in recent days has been quite strange. Dodden says that he knows that it is bad to help only when trouble has already happened. However, in order to protect the residents of this city, he is not afraid to disgrace himself. Toru says that he was the one who mentioned it, so he shouldn't worry. Moreover, does Dodden mind if he goes now? Dodden says that he doesn't mind, and that he can go. The Don says that he stayed with Sako that day, and his conscience caused him to have nightmares about his hair growing out. Dodden spent the whole day there before returning. But now everything is fine, which is why he will leave the restoration to Toru. Sarah went shopping with the owner, so Toru was forced to go and rebuild the wall with Mu. They come to the wall. Toru says that things are worse than he thought. He tells Mu that he will go now and find out something, so he asks her not to go far. Mu obeys him, sits on the board that flies, and says that now Mu will be like the wind. Toru thinks that without a teacher, even a child made of special silver cannot attain the necessary form. Toru looks at the wall and wonders where to start. The outer wall is shaped like a horse's hoof, pointing east, surrounding the city. One of the entrances is located in the lower city after going beyond the gate. On the right, there will be a goblin forest. On the other side, there is the main gate, which faces the road that runs in front of the city. There are 2 areas inside, inner and outer. They are separated by a moat, over which bridges are built. In case of an attack on the outer walls, the bridges will be destroyed. Toru comes with a wooden ladder and says that's great and that he'll start with the worst affected parts. Such damage is only done to cities that have been attacked by monsters several times in the past. It is not possible to hide while using the recovery, but it is not possible to cover a large area at once. He reaches out to the huge crack and says that he will start by returning the hole to the way it was 10 years ago. He succeeds. It's easy to spot the difference. He doesn't think anyone will go that far, but it would be bad if someone found out. Maybe he should reduce the area to just the damaged area. He smiles and thinks that it is impossible to completely restore the large missing fragments. But the piece of wall looks solid now and the cracks have closed, so that is already good. Toru says that at this rate he will have to use the skill many times. He would like to have a choice of multiple targets now. But selecting multiple targets can only be used in special circumstances. The effect is weakened by dispersing the power across multiple targets. But if you get used to it, it allows you to attack multiple monsters at once. Toru says that there is no point in wishing for something he cannot have, but perhaps it is worth trying it out now. He used restorations in many situations. If you remember yesterday's hunt for large caterpillars, the itch went away so quickly. Toru realized that if he looked into his mind using key words, he could find a lot. He was saying out loud about something flawless. He finds a wall in a conscious state and restores it. He corrected about 50 steps. Mew happily runs up to him with the cats and asks if he's done with his work. Toru says that he needs to wait for the number of recovery uses to update so she can go and play some more. She continues to play happily. Toru pulls out his sword and says that since he has to wait, maybe he should try out this iron sword. He makes sharp swings. He feels this vetch and comes to the conclusion that it is not comparable to a wooden sword. If he couldn't handle it, he wouldn't be able to move any further. He made more swings and finished his training. After a while, he says that by some miracle he was able to complete the restoration of the northern wall in a day. The southern one will be next, but first he needs to rest. He comes to Mu and says that they are returning. They come home where the hostess and Sarah have prepared dinner. They sit down at the table, cats are eating under the table. They cheerfully discuss something among themselves and start eating. After a while, they find themselves in a forest. Toru tells them that today they are going to hunt an armored boar. Sarah says that's wonderful and that it sounds like a great party. Mew confidently shouts that Toru can leave everything to her. Toru explains that armored boars are huge beasts that can reach up to a man's shoulder. He is not such an easy opponent. His skill is a level 1 smokescreen and his magic and martial arts do not do much damage. Usually it requires a level 2 or 3 skill to defeat him, but you can defeat him by carefully observing him first. Defeating him means becoming a C crank F. Mew says she understands him, and that's how Toru's record turned blue. Mew says she wants a blue one too. Toru laughs and says yes, of course, everyone does. Mew gets to work right away. She used electric radar to search for the armored boar for the next 2 hours. Suddenly, Mew asks if this is a boar's den. Toru immediately covers her mouth with his hand. Sarah says that it is not, and that it is probably a goblin's den. They see that they are starting to emerge from there. Toru sees a hobgoblin among the regular goblins. Sarah doesn't understand him. Toru explains that they are a subspecies of goblins and that they are rarely seen on the surface. He suggests that if things continue like this, there will probably be a procession. The goblins keep coming out. There are more and more of them as time goes on. This must be the dungeon. Mew asks what a dungeon is, and Toru explains that it is a deep hole in the ground where powerful monsters live. It can be said that it is somewhat reminiscent of the Great Abyss. It is a kind of outpost for the expansion of possessions. In its depths, there is the so-called black hole. This black hole is found in every dungeon, and according to one theory, it is connected to the Great Abyss. The labyrinth is protected by its lord, and thick clouds of miasma flow from the black hole. If everything is left as is, the number of monsters will only increase. Mu asks Toru. This is called an invasion. Toru says that this is true, and that the invasion could also happen for another reason. If the monsters on the surface are not destroyed, it could happen because the area available for life is reduced. In the worst case, if all the monsters from the dungeon were to emerge and take territory from the surface dwellers, the result could be a double invasion. Mew asks if he will fight them. Toru says no and that it is impossible because the two of them are not enough to fight such a horde of goblins. He adds that all they can do now is to notify the nearest sawmill. There are 3 sawmills in the forest, but they have time to warn them all. Toru says okay, suggesting they get back quickly. Sarah agrees and suggests they hurry. Mew doesn't mind either. Toru burns an unknown triangle. Mu asks him what it is. He answers that it is a reward for restoring the wall, an incendiary mixture and an igniting cylinder. Monsters hate the smell of the incendiary mixture. He says it should work well on the hobgoblins too. He throws a rock right into their lair. The goblins start to panic and look around. Toru shouts at the girls to run in one direction now. At this time, the group of 4 is also hunting. Hisoku tells Rikaru once again that they are not ready for something like this. Rikaru counters that it is much faster to attack. Hisoku says that they somehow managed to pull it off last time, but the next encounter might not be as successful. Rikaru tells him that he is too afraid because without trying there is nothing to know. The girl starts to swear. How much longer are they going to continue this? She doesn't like that it's always like this. The girl turns to the third guy, Sisen, and says that he is their leader, so let him say something. Sisen says that there is nothing to be done, so let her leave them because that's how guys are. Despite all these harsh words, this squad was not like that originally. But Sisen understands their discontent and irritation. A few days ago, a new girl showed up who managed to achieve outstanding results on her very first day. Since then, the atmosphere in their squad has changed slightly. They are talking about Sarah. Rikaru and Hisoku are childhood friends who left the village together. They met the magician Alicia in the border town, and it has been 6 months since the squad was created. A rich, high-ranking life awaits them if they just grit their teeth and try their best. But they didn't have any outstanding talents to begin with. Suddenly the earth begins to shake, and in front of them they see, indeed, an armored boar. They panic. The monster takes aim and growls at them. Hisoku asks if it is an armored boar. He says it is much bigger than usual and has more legs. Rikaru steps forward. Shisan yells at him to stop, warning him that he can't defeat him. Rikaru just yells at him that he will deal with him. The monster advances towards him. He jumps and swings his sword, but he realizes that it even scratched him. The monster's snout pushes Ricard back, causing him to crash into a tree, bleeding from his mouth. The other three scream his name in panic. Ricardo turns to them in a convulsive voice and tells them to run in a plaintive, trembling voice. The monster quickly stomps towards the others. Sisan takes out his shield and tells the others to run. Izoku starts to tremble. He freezes in place. Sisan runs away, leading the animal. Elysia runs to Rickard. Sisan thinks that if he can withstand a couple of his attacks, he can buy them some time. Elysia casts a spell and tries to heal Rikaru, asking him to talk to her. However, Rikaru stares blankly into space and does not respond. Edesia screams that the first-level healing water won't heal him. Then she hears another sound and turns around. He sees that the monster's fang has passed through his shield and pierced Sisan's chest. The monster jerks its head, trying to remove it. Sisan is hanging on to his fang and barely speaking, asking for help. Eventually, he falls back, coming off the fang, hits a tree, and falls face down. Elysia begins to sob and shake, not believing her eyes. She sees the monster looking right at her. Suddenly, Rikaru stands up and tells her to run. She hugs Rikaru and screams that she will not leave him. The monster runs towards them, but suddenly an arrow hits it right on the forehead. It was Isoku who shot the arrow at the monster with trembling hands. The monster turns sharply towards him. Alicia screams at him to run. He fired an arrow at the moment Alicia covered Rikara, but his legs do not move. He, as always, cannot move. The monster knocks Hisoka to death, breaking his bow and arrows. Shisan cries out his name in tears. Hisoku is lying on the ground with broken limbs. Shisan looks back at her comrades and thinks that they were arguing just a few minutes ago. She doesn't understand why this is happening. She used all her magic and this will be the last time. She heals Rikaru. She says the words to give a drop of water to her children who are striving for the Lord of the Tree of Life. The monster turns to them. Alicia stands up thinking that at least she was able to save Rikaru. She walks towards the monster in fear. At this time, Rikaru sees a silhouette in front of him and thinks that it is the god of death. Alicia tightly grips her weapon, then feels someone put a hand on her shoulder. It's Toru who tells her that she did a great job and that everything will be okay now. She starts to cry. Then Ricardo stands up and asks what happened to him. Alicia looks around. Then Toru shouts to Sarah that he is leaving them to her, and Mu asks to lend him some power. Sarah obeys him, and Mu activates the thunderstorm. Toru quickly moves and comes to Hisoka. Alicia sees that he is alive and looks at them with hope. Toru overtakes the monster and approaches Sisan, touches him and brings him back to life. Sisan recognizes him. Toru moves quickly and attacks the armored boar with his sword. However, it slips and does not damage the monster. Toru thinks that if this continues, the thunder needle will subside. He thinks hard about what to do. He looks back and sees a tree. He quickly runs towards it, climbs up the tree trunk, but then he weakens and realizes that the effect of the thunder needle has worn off. He falls down from the hollow and runs away with all his might. He touches a tree. Suddenly the boar finds himself pinned between the trees. No one understood what it was. Alicia asks what just happened, that this old tree just did that. Mew shouts at Thor that he is incredible and that he was faster than the thunderstorm. Toru himself is surprised by his strength and looks at his trembling palm. Rikaru asks Alicia what just happened. She falls down exhausted and starts crying, saying that she has no idea. Rikaru doesn't know what to do, while Mu calms her down and strokes her head. Toru stabs the armored boar, causing it to groan in pain. Toru thinks that it is definitely an armored boar, but it is so huge. And then there are those legs. Then Sisen comes to him, asks for forgiveness, and thanks him for saving them. Toru tells him not to worry because he himself was just hunting him. Sisen awkwardly asks why he saves them. Toru just puts his index finger to his lips, hinting not to ask about it and to remain silent. Sisen apologizes again. Toru says that no matter how you look at it, it has too many legs. Sisen agrees and says that it is not an ordinary armored boar, such as this are called special species. He has met one before. If monsters are not hunted, their numbers increase, and due to the reduction of their habitat, mutations begin to occur. The modified individuals, sharpened for battles, are called special species. Toru tells Shisen that they had found a goblin cave earlier, and that they had suddenly started coming out. He is surprised by this news. Toru asks him if he could help him, while Rikaru asks if it doesn't seem like a big problem. Hisoku agrees with him and says that it is. Elysia asks Sisen what he thinks. He confidently answers that he will go with Toru. They silently nod in agreement. Toru says that they should get out of here first. After all, this is the armored boar's territory. Sarah asks if they are really going to leave their prey here. Mu asks if Toru doesn't want to eat meat. Toru says they'll pick him up on the way back, so they should go with him. Miu says he can't wait to get back. There are lumber mills to the northeast and southeast and another one on the forest path. They come out to the forest path and Toru says that it is excellent. He tells the others to head to the southern sawmill. The three of them reach the northern sawmill. A man meets them and is happy to see Toru. But as soon as he tells them about the circumstances, that goblins are crawling out of a cave nearby and that the situation is very dangerous, his face is covered in panic. He screams that this cannot be. The man gives a signal through the sound and shouts that they are leaving the cave and that they must evacuate. He announces that an invasion is about to happen and that the city needs to know about it. So they prepare a signal smoke. Toru tells them to run and that they will take care of the rest. The man shouts along the way that they are relying on them. They see the second signal from afar, and Toru realizes that Sinen's group also succeeded. The man shouts that he can already see the wall, so they don't have time to rest. They are already close. Toru thinks they told them, but there's no blue smoke signal from the watchtower. Half of the guards were sent to Bosalaya as well. That definitely had an effect. Toru tells the girls that Uriel is 100 times stronger, so he wants them to stay with her. Miu looks at Toru sadly. He says that Toru needs to take care of something, so let her be a good girl and wait for him. Miu asks if she can come with him. Toru tells her that he will come back once everything is over, and until then he leaves Sarah to her. Miu doesn't answer and looks sadly. Toru feels her cheeks and calls her a good girl. They say goodbye. Toru runs away. Sarah shouts after him to take care of himself. Carlos meets them at the gate and asks Sarah where the old man is. She replies that Toru said he had something to take care of. Carlos is outraged that he has to do that at a time like this. Carlos says that red smoke means something bad, then Mu runs into his leg with his cart. Carlos writhes in pain and asks what she's doing. Mu yells at him to get lost, calling him a suspicious character. She tells him to leave his sister Sarah alone. Sarah awkwardly tells her that everything is fine. Sarah says that it is still very bad because a lot of goblins are coming out of the cave. Carlos tells her that this is impossible because the cave was taken care of 10 days ago. If an invasion was being prepared, it would take another month. Carlos thinks to himself that it's even harder to believe that the old man would be wrong about something like this. He says out loud that things are very bad, and the boys from the south sawmill haven't returned yet. Carlos starts saying that there is blue smoke visible, so if something happened to him during his return. He suddenly starts up and shouts at Sarah to go because they need to hurry. Sarah asks him to wait and shouts that she will help him. Carlos asks what Sarah is talking about. She can't go there. He says that she is a young girl, that she hasn't been an adventurer for 10 days yet, and it could actually be an invasion, so he can't take her. Then he adds that, besides, if he takes her with him, the old man will give him a severe thrashing. Sarah remains where she is, thinking that she could at least show people the way through the forest. Sarah turns to Miu and says that she has things to do, so could she please go home alone? Miu shakes her head and says that there is no point in even discussing such a thing. She does not understand what she is talking about. Miu tells her that Toru was entrusted to her by her sister Saru, so it's Miu's job. They both end up going into the forest to help people. Sarah points the way to the outer gate. Other people run in panic, shouting to hurry or they will be caught. Sarah asks one of them what happened. The man sees her G-rank badge and tells her to get inside as well because there's a huge boar in there. He thought they were done for. Another adds that it was their fault. They did not believe the four who came to warn them, so they were late in escaping. Another says that in the end, one of them had a hole in the shield, but when they saw the smoke signal from the second point, they realized it was true and fled in panic. When they had already seen the outer walls, they were attacked by a huge boar. The four who accompanied them were forced to attract its attention to themselves so that they barely managed to escape. Sarah asks excitedly what happened next. He replies disappointedly, if only he knew. He's going to tell the gate guards he hopes that it will help them somehow. Sarah wanted to say something, but the man interrupts her and says that they can blame them if they want. But that's the job of adventurers. Sarah says how upset she is when she can't do anything. Miu says that she doesn't feel anything, that she's just following Toru's instructions. Sarah smiles and says that Mu is a very good girl. She starts to stroke her head and notices a cowlick in her hair. She touches him, Miu reacts with a scream. Sarah apologizes and asks if she is in pain. Miu replies that no, everything is fine, it is just a strange feeling for her. She starts to scratch this little curl and laughs, asking if she likes it, and Miu herself really enjoys it. Miu tells her that she can continue to do this. Sarah examines her head and says that there is a second one. Sarah asks Miu to tell her if it is true that they get along very well. Miu replies that it is so. Sarah squats down and asks if she can try that same union. She asks him to look here because her appeal is undoubtedly becoming more useful. She wishes she could find a good way to express her love. Miu asks if Sarah will hate her when they become one, and she assures him that she won't. Miu asks if she won't get angry even if it's unpleasant. Sarah replies that she won't get angry at all. Suddenly, people run out of the trees in panic, followed by an armored boar. They become wary. The monster was about to attack one person, but then Sarah uses the appeal, after which the monster hits the barrier, breaking its face. Sarah screams at the man to run as fast as he can. He thanks her for saving him. The monster slowly gets up. Sarah grabs the rope of the cart and tells Miu to hold on tight. They run away. Miu shouts to everyone that the boar has stood up. Magic stones start pouring out of these sleds. Sarah thinks to herself that there is no time to worry about the magic stone. They all run with their last strength to the gate. The guards shout at them to run faster and that they are getting closer. They panic because the monster is almost catching up. They cross the threshold. Sarah breathes a sigh of relief and tells Miu that they have succeeded. But Miu is not in the sleigh. Just before, when Rikari was distracting the boar so that the others could escape, Hisoku was shooting arrows straight at the monster from other bushes. Sinan was hiding by another tree, preparing his weapon. He recalls Toru's words that the improved version of the armored boar has more legs, so its speed is also improved, which makes it difficult to make sharp turns. Sinan throws a rock at the boar, thinking that by using this factor as a shield, even they can dodge it. Sinan admits that it is still impossible for them to fight face-to-face with an armored boar, so all they need is to buy some time to allow the sawmill workers to escape and then survive themselves. Suddenly, Carlos appears before him, apologizes for keeping them waiting, and says that he will take care of him from now on. The other three come out of the bushes and rejoice at Carlos's arrival. The monster advances on him, but Carlos wounds him in one leg and then the other. And the last spear plunges right into his mouth. Carlos says that now is not the time to open up his huge pig snout. He says that this is the end and throws his spear at the monster. Suddenly, an electrical flash is activated, surprising Carlos. His spear is electrocuted and hits the entire face of the monster, leaving nothing of it. Carlos smiles, and the other kids come up to him. Carlos says that the invasion was just a rumor. He tells them to get out of here or they will be late for the festival. Meanwhile, Sarah is frantically searching for Miu. She asks the people if they have seen a child here. The man replies that he has not seen her since they passed through the outer gate. Sarah panics and hits the gate. Fear stops her and asks what she is doing. Does she really want to kill them all? Sarah says that Miu has disappeared. Rikan nudges her and speaks as if he cares. He locks the gate and Sarah asks him to wait. Rikan tells her that she can die if she wants to, but not to drag them into it. Sarah says that Mew is still outside. Rikan shouts at her. So she wants to open the gate. Let her not be so reckless. Even a stupid person can understand what will happen if she opens the gate. Besides, it's too late because most likely she died a long time ago. Other people intercede and shout that they remember his name. They warn him that he had better watch his language. Another screams that he tried to close the gates even though he knew they were still there. Rikan tries to justify that he was trying to save the city. He is told that his job is to fight monsters. They are indignant and say that this lady, Sarah, protected them. They shout at Rikan that he is paid very well, so let him do his job properly, and he just lies around all day. The second one shouts that he is a former adventurer, so he should be able to deal with that boar on his own. Reika stutters that no, he is only a shield bearer, so he can't handle it on his own. Rikan suddenly runs away from the gate. The townspeople chase after them. Sarah suddenly hears Mu summoning a thunderstorm, as she stands up abruptly and knocks on the huge gate, asking Mu if she is there. Sarah only hears her words about protecting her little sister. Here Sarah remembers the words that Toru entrusted Sarah to her, and that when the gate was closed, Miu herself jumped off the sled to make it lighter, which is why not a sound was heard. Sarah begins to tremble and cry, regretting. She says that it is all because she did not listen to Thor, all because she did not go to the city from the very beginning. Sarah begins to shout through the gates to Miu that she has a request. Can she listen to her just for a little while? Just this once she wants to become one with her. They hear the sounds of battle. Sarah screams, begging her because if this continues, she will die. Sarah realizes that Mu is now using his electric spike and that she has not yet given up and is trying to survive. Sarah yells again that there are still so many fun things they haven't done. They still haven't tried all the food stalls menus. She wants to go to the bathhouse with her again and stroke her curls again. Suddenly, Miu asks Sarah if she is talking about those things she ironed. Sarah says yes, those are the ones, and that she will iron her as much as she wants. She asks again if she will hate her when they become one. Sarah screams that will never happen because she has no reason to hate her. Miu asks if Sarah will be sick of her and if she will be cruel to her. Sarah screams that this will never happen. Miu says that when her mother was cruel to her, she cried all the time she remembers her mother. Sarah says she would never say anything like that and would never be cruel to her. She tells her that Toru has always been there to save her and that now it's her turn. If Miu wants to go somewhere, she'll be there and take Toru with her. With tears in her eyes, Sarah tells Miu that she loves her very much. After a while, a small smoke appears under the gate. Sarah catches on and starts digging too. She scoops up dirt and throws it aside, shouting her name over and over again. Finally, she reaches out and feels Miu's palm. Sarah reaches out, calls for Miu, and finally touches her. After touching her, she is overcome by a strange sensation. Now Sarah sees what Miu sees. A boar is approaching her at great speed. Sarah immediately uses the appeal. The monster hits the barrier. Blood comes from its mouth. The monster does not stop and attacks further. Sarah uses the appeal again. Here the boar's fangs are already starting to crack. The third time she uses the appeal, the monster completely loses its fangs, and then the boar's muzzle completely separates from the body and falls lifeless. The man gulps air and watches the monster die. After a while, she wonders if he is dead. She takes the stick, hits it on her face, and smiles. She stands up and shouts that she has won again, and that she is actually incredibly strong. On the other side of the gate, an exhausted Sarah thinks to herself that it was she who defeated him. She falls to the ground, unconscious. An hour and a half after the smoke signal was noticed, Harrison's flag was raised on the clock tower, and the guild numbers began to gather. Due to the large number of high-ranking adventurers heading out to retake Basilia, a squad of ranged fighters and gatekeepers took up defensive positions on the wall. The squad numbered about 30 people in total. Another 40 adventurers formed a close combat unit. They came out of the gate to carry out a counterattack. Gatekeepers below E rank and a large number of low-ranking adventurers took up positions in the city square in case the defense of the gates or walls were breached. One of the commanders announces to everyone that a large number of enemies have been detected at the northern gate. They look down and see numerous goblins riding on armored boars, with caterpillars and other creatures crawling around separately. The boars furiously smash into the wall. The slugs and caterpillars stand against the wall so that the goblins can get up. Someone bends down and shouts that he will deal with these terrible goblins. The second shouts at him not to be so reckless and not to stick his head out like that. The next second, the goblin throws a stone straight at his head, causing him to die from the explosion. Slugs grab people by the legs. They panic. They pull people down and finish them off at the bottom. One shouts that they haven't been in a real fight for a long time. He suggests cleaning up here. He shouts that the enemy outnumbers them, so they shouldn't hold back. They must stop them with everything they have. They obey him. To deal with the superior numbers of opponents, several mages combine their spells. The earth mages used a magnetic earth shield to create shields from the stones thrown by the goblins. Taking advantage of this, the archers began to shoot, and behind the defenders of the walls, the support squad played a song of valor in order to increase their fighting spirit and not allow fear to shackle their hearts. Fire and lightning mages cast their spells to thin out the goblin hordes. Suddenly, slugs fly at them, one shouting that they are using caustic bullets. Someone groans in pain. He says that it seems they got tired of waiting and finally decided to show themselves. These are hobgoblin shamans. Archers shoot using a tracking arrow so they can't hide. The arrows kill goblin mages by hitting them right in the head. The commander shouts that this is excellent and that he is leaving a melee unit on them. The soldiers are now attacking from below on the goblins themselves. People kill the monsters one by one. Then Dadan steps forward in armor. People say that you can't tell who the real monster is here, which is to be expected from their boss. He uses roaring lightning. People start to panic that they might get hit too. He shoots lightning, killing all the monsters, including the boars, in one hit. A huge hole forms in the ground. One of the soldiers says that he really did overdo it. Another shouts for everyone to get back behind the walls before the rain starts. It starts to rain. Dadan puts his hand on the wall. Dadan shouts that somehow they were able to hold them all back. According to Thor's report, only the northern wall had been restored, and it was this that the monsters decided to attack. Concentrating their attack on a strong, fortified part of the wall, he is sure that the hobgoblins are much smarter than it dawns on him that, besides, their leader was nowhere to be seen. Dadan seeks and says that it was just a diversion. He lifts his head up to the sky. Shortly before the battle for the northern wall, Toru was busily heading out somewhere with the thought that he needs to rebuild as much of the southern wall as he can. On the way, he notices some rustling. He looks out cautiously and sees hobgoblins walking in groups through the forest. Toru wonders why their tracks are here, why the goblins, who should have immediately headed to the wall, would hide in the nearby forest. He understands that the battle at the northern wall has already begun. He thinks about what he should do. Maybe he should go back and call for help. He backs away from this idea because if that is the hobgoblin's real goal, it would be too late to run to the north wall. He remembers the events of 10 years ago and says that that he will not allow this to happen again. What he doesn't want to lose, more than anything, is that lucky dinner table. Then he notices that the goblins are starting to break down part of the wall. Toru realizes that that attack was actually just a distraction. He clenches his fist. He wonders if he can defeat the hobgoblins near the forest without disturbing those working at the wall. When he tried to immobilize that armored boar, even after the lightning needle's effect ended, he was still able to move at high speed for a while. He still remembers the feeling of every cell in his body pushing itself to the limit. But can he repeat it? He takes out his sword and decides he has to try. He comes out of the bushes, screaming with his sword, catching the goblins off guard. Toru makes several swings with his sword, decapitating several goblins. He immediately hides behind a tree, as there are many of them. His hand trembles from the strain, but after he recovers, he comes to his senses and thinks that at this rate he can deal with them. Suddenly he starts to feel a scary dark aura. He wonders if it is the one who ordered his troops to attack the northern wall as a diversion, leading the surprise attack on the northern wall. Is this the hobgoblin leader? Toru realizes that their strongest warrior has entered the scene. At this time, the wall falls, the goblins have broken through. Toru understands that at this rate the city will not be able to withstand an attack from two sides. He walks towards them. The goblins notice him and turn to him. First he takes the head off one. Toru touches the wall and restores it again, surprising the goblins and enraging them. Thor is surrounded by numerous goblins. He realizes that about 10 of them have broken into the city. The goblins attack him, he swings his swords, depriving them of their heads and limbs one by one. One of the goblins wounds him anyway. He tries to restore his body with a trembling hand. But one of the goblins runs towards him. The goblin takes Thor's sword and plunges both swords into his stomach at the same time. Thor's mouth bleeds as he raises his hand and plunges his knife into the eye of one of the goblins. While the other is shocked by the actions, Toru pushes him, kicking him in the chest. The goblin falls back. Toru takes the knife stabbed into his stomach and removes it with a scream, coughing up blood. The goblins watch him closely and are horrified when they see that the wound has healed and there is no blood left. He still fights and beheads goblins. A speech is made asking the ice god to grant those who sinned against his will eternal rest. Someone was summoning the ice sleep spell, which is used by members of the Ashen clan. The spell distracts its targets and puts them to sleep for a while. But goblins fall asleep. Toru realizes that only one person in the city can use this kind of ice magic. Ural approaches him. While all the goblins are sleeping in an upright position, the mistress smiles and congratulates Thor on his return. Toru asks the owner what she's doing here, and she sighs and replies that places like this are subject to attacks these days, which is why the housing here is so cheap. Suddenly, the goblins wake up, but they don't have time to react because Toru deprived them of their heads. He still hasn't heard the horn signaling their victory from the north. He figures he has to do something before the hobgoblin chieftain and his troops get a chance to go elsewhere. He turns to his mistress, who nods her head and says that she may not be able to fight for long, but she asks to be allowed to help him. Toru smiles and nods as well. He approaches the wall, places his palm and restores it, thinking that after this he will only have 3 uses left. The goblins break down the wall again and swarm in. They turn to see Uriel casting another spell, telling them to find peace. While they are all hibernating, Toru kills them on the spot. The second group of goblins bursts in, with their leader standing behind them and sending fog there. Ural conjures ice crystals. The goblins freeze in fear again. Thor swings his swords. They bleed and tremble, but cannot do anything. Toru thinks it's incredible just by inhaling these tiny crystals. The hobgoblin's regenerative abilities were completely suppressed. He realizes that all he can do is chop them up, which he does. He turns to the owner and sees that she is ill. He manages to catch her before she loses consciousness. Even though she used low-level skills, she used them multiple times against multiple opponents. While interrupting their movements, it must have caused this exhaustion. She must have used an incredible amount of magical energy. The mistress leans against his back. A new crowd of goblins bursts in. Toru picks out the moment in time in which the mistress had her maximum supply of magical energy. Then he will completely restore it. The goblins enter, see the corpses of their comrades and want to run back, but they die immediately because their leader enters. Thor realizes that it is the leader of the hobgoblins. He asks Ural if she can go. She asks if it is because of Thor that even the pain in her hips has completely disappeared. Toru says he'll figure it out somehow, so he asks her not to push herself too hard and to rest. Ural says that it usually takes 5 F-rank heroes to defeat the hobgoblin chief. Doesn't this look like the test you have to pass to become an E-rank hero? Toru tells her not to worry, he'll be fine. He asks her to just watch from a safe distance. Ural says she understands him, so she'll leave him to Toru. Ural leaves, the hobgoblin leader begins to growl. Toru is shaking all over with excitement. He looks at his body and thinks that this skin is like armor, and also, it looks like he is wearing bear fur. He wonders if that steel blade can cut through it. The monster attacks him. Toru comes to the conclusion that he will just have to aim for its head or the edges of its limbs. The monster swings his weapon. Toru manages to dodge and attacks him in response, hitting his face with his sword. The monster gets even more angry and attacks him again with its huge bone. Toru dodges again, moving to the side. The goblin's face begins to emit smoke, his wound heals completely, and he licks the remaining blood off his own face. Toru realizes that it is useless. Even if he attacks parts of the body that are not protected by fur, he will still regenerate all the damage done to him. He stands, his hand shaking, and so does his sword. It occurs to him that there is still one place his blade can do damage. Toru suddenly moves and attacks the monster with his sword, aiming for the eyes. But he suddenly raises his hands, protecting himself with his forearms. The monster exhales smoke from its mouth, and Toru can barely hold on from the tension. However, the goblin's hand slips, and Toru hits it right in the eyes. The monster screams loudly in pain, covering his eyes with his hand. He stumbles and loses his balance, at which point Toru attacks again, wanting to overwhelm him with a flurry of attacks. Then the monster reaches out and grabs Thor by the collar. Thor realizes that he is caught. He reaches out and touches the wall, then uses Restore. The wall begins to grow, and Toru falls on his back. The wall pins the goblin, who can't see anything now anyway. Numerous rocks fall on him. Toru breathes heavily and thinks that he was able to return this wall to the moment before the hobgoblins made a hole in it. Yril comes up to him and says that it was a good job and he must be tired. He turns his head and thanks the mistress. He is silenced for a moment because of the young Yril. Thor's mouth drops open in shock, his cheeks starting to turn red at the sight of her. Yril asks if something is wrong and why his face is so red. He awkwardly mumbles that it is not. Toru stands up and stabs the goblin leader in the head. He asks if the two have returned to the house. She replies that they have not. Toru thinks to himself that for some reason the owner has not noticed the change yet. Toru can't even use recovery in secret because he has no more uses left. Yril says that she will look after everything here, and she asks him to hurry up and return to the gate. Thor thanks her and says he will leave it to her. He leaves her in a hurry, while Yril thinks about what to cook for her today. The rain stops, drops are running down the plants. Carlos tells Thor that he is late because the party is already over. Next to Carlos stands the group with Sisan. Toru is surprised and says that he thought the rally point was somewhere else, and that it looks like the four of them were able to figure it out here. Sisan says that right after the horses finished everything, they encountered another armored boar, but Carlos saved them. Then they met Sarah and Mu at the gate, so they stayed and protected the area. Carlos says that right before the gatekeeper showed up, they united after that and went on a rampage, tracking down the rest of the troops in the forest. Toru tells him that he owes him something. Carlos blushes and awkwardly says that he doesn't, and that he should just find his own path where he can move on and not worry about such trivial things like owing him something. Suddenly someone calls Thor. He turns around and sees Mu and Sarah running towards him. They both hug him tightly. Carlos and the others look at them with warm eyes. Toru immediately realizes that Sarah seems to have used the conversion until she completely used up all her magic. Sarah begins to say that she thinks that after all this, she finally understands that it takes a lot of willpower to risk your life for someone else. She says that she really regrets not realizing this sooner and that she wishes she had returned to the city immediately. Toru says that he understands this and that the fact that she realized it is more important than anything. Mu asks if he wants to hear how she defeated the boar. Sarah says that she defeated it. Toru stares at them and then suddenly starts hugging them very tightly. The girls blush and cheer. Toru says that they gave it their all, didn't they? He can't describe how glad he is that they're safe. He says that it's his fault for thinking about letting the adults handle it. Sarah starts to object and say that it is not his fault but her fault because she could not do something so simple. Mu says that she protected Sarah, just like he told her to. Sarah starts to get indignant and tugs at Mu's cheeks, saying that it's not nice to defend her like that, and if she does it again, she'll get really angry. Mu reminds her that Sarah said she wouldn't get angry. Toru watches their interaction and smiles, wondering if they are finally starting to get along. The next day after defending Daden City from the goblin attack from the goblin forest, the troops that were sent by Deputy Chief Sako returned. The report confirmed the details of an investigation that had been ongoing for some time. The area near Basilia that had been destroyed had been transformed into a huge dungeon. High-ranking adventurers suddenly entered the dungeon and dealt with the threat of any problems. The real problem is the fact that this infiltration happened just before the goblins attacked Daden. At Choi's establishment, Teacher Daden asks Sako if he really wants to tell him that the goblin attack yesterday was somehow connected to the destruction of the dungeon in Basilia, something like the bad consequences of its destruction. Sako tells him that this is purely his assumption. Further investigation is needed to determine the cause in his opinion. Sako adds that, in addition, after the report of the attack, the countermeasures were weak, and in addition, everyone was distracted by the goblins' sabotage, which allowed them to infiltrate the city. The last of them was easily defeated by some passing seeker, but this does not change the fact that the efforts made were a complete failure. Daden laughs and says that then, many thanks to this passing seeker, if it weren't for him, then the tragedy of Basialia would have been repeated. Sako gets angry and says that this is not a joke. Dodin tells him that he understands what Sako is trying to tell him. He wants Dodin to reorganize the gate guards nearby, in short, to reduce their number. Dodin is already shouting that he will not just sit idly by, he will redistribute savings to rebuild the wall. Sako drinks and says calmly that it is up to him to decide what to do, and that he can express his opinion to this committee at the next meeting, and that it is also necessary to reward those who fought bravely yesterday. Dodin exhales and says that the whole mood has dropped again, although there are fewer and fewer of them. The work only becomes more. If this continues, then their morale will hit rock bottom. Sako tells him that it is inevitable given the current circumstances. Since there were no civilian casualties, it is far from the worst outcome. But for the gate guards to take all their hands and close the gate to the people makes them look bad. Dodin says they really should thank them for this, that's for sure. Sako adds that only 3 gate guards died this time, compared to 112 of them 9 years ago. Dodin says it's hard to believe, to think that his stupid student would become so capable. Sako says that the one in question was with another seeker, but he is interrupted by the establishment's waiter talking about nameless heroes who famously defeated dozens of hobgoblins and their leader. The waiter turns around and says that there is even a rumor that one of these heroes is a beauty with a broom. People in the city have created a stir trying to find these mysterious heroes. Dodin says that he's become a man, speaking of Toru, who has far exceeded his expectations. Sako agrees with him and they both continue drinking. Dodin remembers and says that Sako said something about Lady Ural. Being a man who sees through any deception, he can say that it was unmistakably her. Sako says with a smile that he will be very surprised, as always, because her beauty is amazing. Dodin says that since Toru was able to restore her youth, maybe he can get rid of that rough look that Sako always has. Sako replies that his selfish desires can wait. They have more important things to do now. Dodin asks if he is talking about Boss Alaya. He asks what happened. Sako reveals that they were able to deal with the dungeon itself. But the labyrinth boss was proving to be quite a challenge, and its sealing it won't be easy. That's why he wants Toru to try harder and become even stronger. At this time, Toru meets Carlos. He asks him if he is leaving the gate guards and leaving the city. He confirms this and says that he is leaving with Rikan. Having committed a selfish act by running away after the gates were closed to innocent people, Rikan was stripped of his seeker status and will be banished from the city. After all, this loser has been his partner for years. He can't just leave him like that. He reflects on his actions, so Carlos thinks they can figure it out together somehow. Carlos asks Tora to tell Sarah that he's sorry he couldn't take her to different restaurants, and then calls Mew a squeaker and asks her to tell her that Carlos is actually a cool guy. Toru tells him that it will be difficult because Carlos knows that he is not going to lie to her. Carlos smiles at this answer. Toru holds out his fist to him. Carlos holds out his hand without a wrist. Toru then tells him that this is his parting gift. He remembers all their hunts together, how he restored knives. Then he said that this is all his skill can do. Carlos starts crying and saying that this skill is not useless at all. Not even a little bit. He thinks it's an amazing skill. Carlos's arm is restored. He sees his hand. Toru turns and walks away from him. Ural is grilling meat. Mew and Sarah are delighted. Mew asks if it's a meat party tonight. Sarah tells Thor that it's amazing and that the meat is so thick. Ural says they have other boar dishes too, such as roast ribs with white beans, new round potatoes and onions. They also have minced meat skewers with a softened, strong-smelling filling. Ural says there's plenty left, so she asks people to eat heartily. Yesterday, Toru accidentally returned the mistress to her youth, but it would be awkward to turn a woman who had regained her beauty and health back into an old woman. Besides, when he accidentally asked her about it, he came to the conclusion that she liked it very much. Mew wishes everyone a bon appetit. Everyone starts eating. Sarah and Mew simply fly away in pleasure from the taste of the food. Everyone eats. Not only them, but the cats also enjoy the meat under the table. They finish eating. Sarah says that she has eaten too much, and that she can't even take a step. Toru tells her that is because she got carried away and ate 5 whole plates of food. She ignores his words. Ural says she hopes they enjoyed her cooking. Toru thanks her for the incredibly delicious dinner. She replies that it was a joy to her. It was her gift to him in honor of the victory over the 2 armored boars and that their blue adventurer tokens are proof of this. Miu says that it's unfair because she's the only one who doesn't have a blue token. Toru tells her not to worry about it because she'll be able to get F rank very quickly. After all, she's the strongest of them. Miu smiles and says that it is true. Yrel says that it is a pity that his promotion to E rank was delayed since he defeated the Hobgoblin Chief, even if the dungeon itself was not conquered. Toru says it's unfortunate that he missed the chance to get a skill for conquering a dungeon, but he's happy that he didn't end up standing out too much. He adds that, in addition, he did not allow the monsters to invade the city and got 2 gold for it. In addition, the skin obtained from the armored boars can be used to make new equipment. He believes that he is gradually moving forward. Yrel smiles. Taro tells her that he would like to ask her something. She asks what it is. Toru says if she doesn't mind, would she like to join their squad? Sarah and Mu immediately become happy. Yrel looks back and says that she is very grateful to him for the invitation, but an old woman like her will only delay them. Toru then asks if she has another problem. She immediately twitches. He takes her hand and says that maybe he can help her, so he asks to let him take a look. He sees all her memories and thinks that even looking at her full personal history, he doesn't see any particular problems. Then he looks down and sees some kind of black hole at the roots of her tree. He wonders what it is. It is a growth hindrance that prevents the owner from gaining skill points and suppresses the growth of magic. Yrel says that it turns out that Toru has the ability to see skills without using a measuring device. Then her face changes to sadness. She says that it was because of this damned fruit that she had to leave the profession of an adventurer. She tells a story from the past when the head of the temple came to their village. The villagers did not understand what the head of the temple could need in such a god-forsaken village. Someone says that she said that she wants to meet Uriel. The others are surprised and call the girl a damned witch. Someone shuts her up, saying that she shouldn't say such things so casually. At Uriel's house, she asks again if the head of the temple really wants her to become a teacher. She confirms this. Uriel thanks her for having come such a long way to get here. However, she refuses her offer. The temple leader tells her that the reason why someone like her, who was considered a candidate for a hero, left adventurers. She asks if it is because of the mage killer. She remains silent. The temple master says that usually defeating the dungeon lord and sealing the black hole on the skill tree trunk will cause a new fruit to appear. But in one labyrinth, there is a skill that curses magic users. Then she adds that it's just a rumor. Whether it's because she was kicked out of the party or she just got tired of the adventurer life. The reason why she stopped being an adventurer doesn't matter. She asks Yrel to share her great knowledge with him, calling her white ice. Yrel says that at the discretion of the head of the temple, she became a teacher. She became a person who put her dreams on the younger generation, helping them grow. Toru says he understands now. Toru says that he checked the effect of the curse. The description says that it reduces the amount of skill points received after defeating monsters by 10 times and gradually reduces the reserve of magic, which should increase over the years. That time he panicked and searched for the time with her maximum magic and brought her back with recovery at that very moment. Sarah asks if he can't use his skill to get rid of it. Toru says that in the case of a skill tree branch, he can use recovery as many times as he wants, but with the recovery time reversal effect, the skill fruit cannot be removed from the trunk. Sarah asks if she can take a look. Yrel tells her to try. Sarah asks Miu to help her. Miu replies that she is so full she can't move. Sarah tells her that if he falls apart after eating, she will turn into a fat cat. They sit down next to Yrel. Miu takes her hands and says that they are beginning. In a moment, all 4 of them find themselves in front of Yrel's tree. Yrel says it's so strange to see the tree so clearly. Sarah asks her if it's not amazing. Miu brags, saying it's all thanks to her. Sarah says they are busy now, so they will put it off until later. She strokes her head, where her hair is arranged in a swirl. Sarah approaches the fetus, closes her eyes. The others begin to panic and ask what he is going to do. Suddenly, after Sarah's actions, the fruit turns light. Growth acceleration is a skill that accelerates the user's skill points and magic growth. Toru begins to realize that Sarah simply reversed the curse with her skill. Sarah says that she just thought it might work. She asks her how she feels. Yrel doesn't answer her. The next second, the mistress throws herself into her arms with tears in her eyes. Sarah smiles and hugs her back. Toru takes Yrel's hand and pulls. Suddenly, someone between them screams that she can't breathe. It was Mew, who was sitting on Sarah's lap, and Yuro was crushing her with her arms. They continue to hug, and Toru sits next to them with a smile. The four of them arrive at the Adventurers Guild. Sarah says that it's incredibly empty today. Toru says that's all because the plan to retake Basilia is finished for now, and the high-ranking adventurers have returned to their hunting grounds. Sarah says she and Mew will go get ready. Mew says they'll be back soon. Toru says not to overdo it there. Thor tells Uriel that everything is fine and that they should go too. Uriel tells him that she is counting on him to show her around here. Although it's pretty empty, there's still someone very loud. Toru tells Uriel to go to another stand. Toru asks the worker with the two ponytails if they can register a new adventurer. She answers absent-mindedly that they can. As soon as she sees Uriel, she immediately starts blushing and stuttering her words. She hesitantly greets them and says that they are accepting applications for registration and that her name is Marika. She asks if she can know her name. Uriel introduces herself and tells her it is a pleasure to meet her. Marika hands her a paper and asks Mrs. Uriel to fill out the registration form. She laughs and says how nice it is to see the letters clearly. Toru asks the worker, because to register a new adventurer, the token of the one who introduces him is needed. He shows his token. The worker sees it. Marika looks at the paper and voices the information that she is 22 years old and from Stola. She smiles and says that she now understands where these ears come from and that she does not see any problems. Uriel's real name is Jirali Real, but they force her to register as their granddaughter, shortening her name to Jireel. Marika puts down the ball and says, "Could she please touch this ball now?" Uriel reaches out and touches the ball. Toru is once again amazed by Uriela's skill tree. Even the three lower skill branches of Ice Stream, Ice Crystals, and Snow Cover are fully grown, and there are skill fruits hanging on all the top branches. In addition, the mid-level skill tree Ice Flower Camp has already fully grown, and Freezing Mist has very little left. All skill trees have a maximum level of 9, and although it is not a fact that they will all grow, she already has 4 of them. Marika says that she is simply incredible. She starts thinking hard about what rank to assign her. After thinking about it, she happily announces that she will be given rank B. Toru gets indignant and asks if all newbies shouldn't start at G rank. Marika starts getting angry and asking what he even wants. He keeps butting into their conversation. He couldn't stop doing it. Toru awkwardly replies that it's not like that and that he's just trying to figure out if the system has changed. He thinks it would be problematic if she got such a high rank. If adventurers are more than 2 ranks apart, they cannot form a party and the hunting grounds they can go to will be limited. Toru looks around and sees another worker who always serves them. Toru asks Marika to wait and stop the procedure because he wants to make sure of something. She gets angry and asks why she does that, because she works here too. Uriel starts to calm her down and very politely apologizes and asks if she could wait a little. Marika immediately changes and with a smile answers that she will wait as long as she needs. Then he adds a condition, asking if Uriel could let her touch her hair. She blushes, looking at Uriel. There is a quarrel at another counter. A customer demands the worker to give him the name of this modest gentleman hero. She answers that, as she said, she cannot divulge it at their personal request. The visitor persists and asks what about the initials. She can do that. She replies that even the initials alone might be enough to identify him, so she can't do that. The visitor turns out to be a woman and says that they will not achieve anything this way. After thinking, she starts asking again. She asks the worker what about age. They can do that. She has already given up quite a bit. She starts to say that that is also not much. The visitor interrupts her and asks with an angry expression if they can't even tell her age. Toru comes up to them and says that he is 39 years old now. Then he asks if their conversation is over now. He turns to Enna and asks if she has a minute. Enna asks if she has a minute. Enna asks if something happened. Toru explains that he came to register a friend, but it seems she will be receiving a higher rank. Enna asks if they have already been evaluated using the soul measurement device. Toru replies that they have already. Enna says that if that's the case, then she's terribly sorry, but it won't be possible to change her rank. Because the registration system has changed. They've made it more efficient. Depending on how the skill tree develops, you can get a higher rank. Toru thinks to himself how careless it is after using the measuring device. He can't even restore the hostess' skill tree. Another man in uniform then intervenes and apologizes for this. He says that he believes Toru wants to form a squad with the lady he brought. This is the head of the support squad, whose name is Shika. Toru says that's pretty much what he wants. He adds that it would be great if they could lower her rank a little. Shika says that they can't change their mind too much, and the most they can do is give her a C rank. Toru muses that if that happens, they'll need at least an E rank to form a squad. Shika smiles and says that if his squad gets promoted, there won't be any problems. He tells that the Goblin Cave, which is the test to get promoted to rank E, is currently unconquered by any squad. If they want, they can give them priority as the squad that discovered it. He asks what Toru thinks about it. The Goblin Cave that caused the Goblin invasion, even though the monsters were defeated, the cave itself has not yet been conquered, since several days have passed since the victory over the Labyrinth Lord. The Hobgoblin leader, he should have already been reborn. Toru tells him that he understands and that they will do so. The girl who demanded information about Toru from Enna asks if he is the mysterious hero. She adds that he is older than she thought and asks if he is trying to prove himself before retiring. Toru asks her for forgiveness and says that he lied. The girl is surprised and asks if that really happened. The guy behind her tells her that this is probably a lie too. The girl, confused and angry, asks if it is a lie or not. She says that, whatever it was, she was just curious about what a man who gave up a chance to become famous looked like. Toru tells her that that's the end of their business then. The girl catches up with him and tells him to wait because she hasn't finished speaking with him yet. Toru turns around and asks if she really has anything else to say. She shouts that from what she heard, he is going to try to conquer the dungeon. She challenges him to a competition to see who can defeat the dungeon lord first. The guy behind her tells her that it looks like the dungeon is quite small, so you can only enter it one at a time. She thinks about it, uncomfortably. She then tells Toru that she will let him go there first. Toru leaves with a smile and says that then he owes her. The guy behind her says that if she does that, there is a chance that a third party will win. They don't have the right to challenge the dungeon at all since they haven't finished registering yet. The girl still doesn't calm down and follows Toru, shouting after him and pointing at him with her index finger that he better be on his guard. Miu approaches Thor and asks if he wants to take a bath. The girl is surprised and blushes when she sees the child. She wonders if he is married. Sarah comes out in front of her, bows her head and confirms her guess, saying that she is his beloved wife. The girl is confused and says that they are lying because she has not heard anything about him having a wife and child. The guy asks her to calm down because he thinks that she is one of Mr. Toru's acquaintances. Sarah greets them and introduces herself, saying that she and Toru are in the same squad. Then she introduces Mu. Mu asks her if she would like to join them in the bath, and if she would like Mu to wash her back. The girl introduces herself. Her name is Betiena, and behind him stands her butler, whose name is Godden. Godden says that it is nice to meet them. Toru says disappointedly that although he did not want to meet them, Miu says that if Godden wants, she wouldn't mind getting along. Godden sits down, thanks her, and asks her to accept this as a token of their meeting, holding out a piece of candy. She immediately puts the candy in her mouth and says that it is honey and that it is also delicious. Sarah and Thor are also offered candy. Betiena laughs and tells her to continue sucking her until their next meeting. She apologizes, but she has to take her leave. She calls Godden to follow her. They run away, and Toru wonders to herself what came over her so suddenly. At this time, Marika combs Ural's hair. She says that this boxwood comb is simply superb, and that Ural's hair is incredibly silky. Ural tells her that although it is a little expensive, she recommends it for its incredible softness. Shika approaches them and apologizes to Ural for waiting, carrying a tray in his hands. He hands it to her, and there is an adventurer's token lying on it. Ural thanks them. Sarah says the black frame looks so beautiful and mature. Miu says Grandma has become an adventurer just like Miu. Toru apologizes to her for making her wait, since he was the one who invited her. Ural tells him not to worry, since it wasn't Toru's fault. Marika screams that she can't believe that Miss Ural didn't get a B ranks. Shika tells her that she should get back to work right away. Toru says that they will conquer the Goblin Cave and catch up with her in no time, so he asks her to wait a little. She nods and says that she is much more patient than he thinks, so she will wait. Sarah tells her with a smile that everything will probably be ready in no time. Mew adds that if she is the one taking on the job, everything will go swimmingly. The next day, after registering with the guild, Toru and his party headed to the Goblin Cave. In order to reach Ranki, they must defeat the hobgoblin chieftain living deep within the cave and conquer it within 15 days. However, there is a reason why this will not be so easy. One of the features of the dungeon is that some types of minerals can be found in its walls. For this reason, when someone explores a goblin cave, they are accompanied by miners, and the squads are required to ensure their safety. Although the goblin cave only has about 3 underground levels due to the constant flow of miasma, even if a hobgoblin is defeated, it will respawn within a couple of hours. Thus, the miners can only work during safe hours. They come to the goblin cave. Sarah asks Toru if it wouldn't be quicker to explore the cave while they're digging, and he replies that fighting is forbidden while mining crystals, as it could draw the miners in. They have no choice but to advance, alternating between fighting monsters and mining minerals. Toru tells the miners that they are going to explore the first level, so they should prepare themselves. One of the miners wonders if they will be safe with the squad that includes the child. Another one answers him, who knows, since the Adventurers Guild gave them permission, they can only wait. They pass through a dark, narrow cave. Sarah tells Thor that it is so dark that she cannot see anything. She wants to turn on the lantern. Thor tells her not to turn it on, or she will become a target for the hobgoblins. Sarah says that at this rate she can't even see where she's going. She bumps into something and makes a noise. Toru remembers something and says that she is using Mew's eyes, which are great at seeing in the dark. Mew confidently tells them to leave it to her. She uses her ability. The view opens up. Sarah is amazed and says that they can see even in complete darkness. She thinks Mew is incredible. Suddenly, a rock flies towards them and Toru defends himself from it by holding his sword to it. He says they should have quickly. He looks more closely and hears sounds, then tells the girls to follow him, keeping their distance. He steps forward, deflecting the rocks again and again. He sees 2 monsters jumping at him to attack. He takes both of their heads with one swing of his sword. Another goblin throws a rock. Toru defends himself by putting the dead body of another goblin in the way. He and the body walk straight at the goblin, piercing him with his sword. At this time, the miners are enjoying drinks. One says that they won't be back for a long time. He offers the others a snack. The second supports and laughs. Suddenly, Toru and the girls emerge from the cave. The miner asks them if they have already given up and returned. Toru replies that they are done, surprising the others. Toru tells the miners that they can go now that they have cleared the first level. They don't believe him and asks if it's true since it hasn't even been an hour. Toru shows them a handful of severed goblin ears. The miners stand there in shock, their mouths hanging open. The miner asks if it is safe now. Toru says it is, and that there shouldn't have been a single one left there. Sarah says with a smile that they did a great job of cleaning everything up. Mew says that she worked hard so it's safe now. The head miner tells the others to get up and stop being lazy because it's time to work. Another one is indignant that this is despite the fact that he himself was talking about a snack a second ago. They all go into the cave together. Sarah notices something about Toru's sword and asks if his sword belt is sagging. Toru says that after all, he is quite old. She asks if he can't restore it. Toru explains that his restoration doesn't work on items not meant for combat. It can only restore weapons and armor that take direct hits. Sora says that she understands now. Toru says that's great and suggests that they clear the area of monsters while the miners dig there. He sees Mew doing something with rocks with the miners. Toru asks what she is doing with the miners taking a break. Sarah replies that Mew said that piling up rocks is fun and that she has opened up to them completely. Toru calls Mew to the cave, and she tells him that she is tired of doing the same thing over and over again. Once the miners realized that Toru's squad, despite their appearance, was quite skilled, the number of miners began to increase day by day. A few days later, the number of miners increased to 20, and in case of an attack by monsters on the camp near the cave, a new squad was added as guards. This is Shisan and his group. He thanks Toru for working hard. Rikaru tells them to take care of each other. Hisoku and Elysia say hello, saying that it's been a while since they've seen each other. Sarah is happy and also says that they haven't seen each other for a long time. Toru says that from what he heard, they will be guarding them on their way home as well. Shisan says it's all thanks to Thor. Ricare asks if he suddenly found a lot of courage, or if he just stopped being afraid of everything. Isoku tells Ricare that until recently all he could do was swing his sword like a madman, but now he has even learned to retreat. Ricare says that even Hisoku has learned to shoot a bow without posing. Alessia says that she has less of a burden as a healer now and can relax and watch the battle. Toru just smiles at their statements. Alicia remembers and says that they would like to ask Toru about something. Toru immediately thinks about mining ore. He replies that he doesn't mind because this time they gave up the mining rights. Everyone is happy, Mu too. Toru stops her and says that not her. Mu irritably says that she wants to dig too. Toru asks her if she always liked a hole so much. She replies that playing with rocks is fun, and if you hit a pile of rocks, it will start to fall apart. Toru concedes and says that when they are done clearing out the goblins, Toru will help her too, so Mu should be patient. She replies that she understands him, and that it is a promise. After 5 days of exploring the cave, they have collected enough ore. One of the miners says that they will soon finish mining on the first level, and that it has been a long time since they were able to advance so quickly. To be honest, they did not expect anything special at first. The miner says that Sarah and Mu are so cute that anyone would be fooled. The other agrees with him, saying that he is absolutely right. Sarah blushes and Mu is happy. Gather asks Toru if they are going to try to go to the second level tomorrow. He asks if it is okay that they are in such a hurry. Toru replies that they have more or less cleared the first level, so they will wait and see. The miner says it is good that they do their work quickly, but he does not want them to overwork themselves. The loggers told them how they saved them. He apologizes for doubting them. Toru exhales and says not to worry about it because he's already used to it. There are 10 days left until the deadline. Days left of the time to conquer the Goblin Cave. Reimo is happy to see them and says that they have returned and have done it quickly. Toru immediately apologizes for the rush. The girls greet Reimo as well. Reimo asks Toru that he is apparently doing well. Then he asks everyone if they want to try on the new clothes. They all change. Sarah asks if it suits her. Toru nods silently. Reimo says that if it's too tight around the shoulders or under the arms, she can adjust the suit to her body using the drawstring at the chest. Sarah looks and asks if that's what he's talking about. Mu asks, pointing to the hat, what it is. He replies that it is a hat made of red hippopotamus skin. Mu is surprised. Reimo asks how she is, if she likes it. She answers that she has a slightly strange feeling, but she likes it. Mu immediately runs to show Sarah and Thor. Sarah touches her elbow and says how strange it feels because they are soft to the touch, but when you grab them, they become hard. Reimo says that they are made from the hump of an armored bear, an effect that is achieved by layering it. Reimo looks at them lovingly and says if only he had a wife and children. Toru tells him that he is not yet 30, so he still has plenty of time. Reimo smiles and says that he is right. If even he, who has just turned 40, was able to get such a nice wife and daughter, then it is definitely too early for him to give up. They look at Toru. Sarah says that, anyway, his robe is very beautiful. Mu says that Toru is all shiny. Reimo explains that this robe is made from the blue-striped serpent that lives in the fetid swamps. Since it lives in miasma soap swamps, its skin is particularly durable. Toru says that it also means that it is a high-grade material worth 20 silver coins. Sarah asks him if it is okay for him to take something so expensive. Reimo immediately smiles and winks, saying that he recently received an order to repair a snakeskin cloak. Toru says that they used the repair as an excuse and used the restoration to cut off some material for themselves, then made this robe out of it. Reimo asks how things are going with the cave. He says that the fact that they made him hurry shows that they are going through hard times. Toru says that nothing can be hidden from him, and that it is a race against time. Reimo tells him that after all, there is also this tradition of not killing the Lord until the required amount of ore has been mined. Toru thinks of Ural and wonders if only they had a little more help. Reimo says that instead of helping, the miners are becoming a burden. Toru suddenly remembers something and tells Reimo to wait and says that they will succeed. Mu hands over the bag and thanks him. Ramo says that it is a pouch he made for her to celebrate her promotion. Is she really using it? He suggests that they take a look at what is in it. He sees the magic stones and asks where she got them from. Mu replies that they are food for a Wanamoro. Ramo openly says that he doesn't understand anything, so he asks for an explanation. Sarah says that this is Mu's favorite sled. Apparently she named it that because of the flower-like design, and the magic stones allow it to fly. Ramo is surprised and understands that's what she meant by food. Sarah says that Toru was angry at Mu because she rides them too much. Mu sadly says that Toru was angry. Sarah then tells Ramo with a smile that now if she tries hard during the adventures, she can get the magic stones. Mu adds that this is called a salary. Ramo pats Mu on the head. Toru tells him that they are leaving. He sees them off, waving goodbye. Suddenly, Sarah turns around and says that she would like him to do something for her. She comes up and whispers something in his ear. Ramo says that it will only take him a couple of days to do something like that. Sarah begs him to do it for her. Ramo smiles. Sarah goes back. In the goblin cave on the second underground level, they continue to clear out. Mu uses lightning. Toru deflects the blows with rocks again and again. He suddenly attacks the goblins and decapitates them. He notices a certain blow. It is a bullet of decay. As I thought, from the second level, there are hobgoblin shamans, and their teamwork improves. He easily kills one shaman. Sora asks what the smell is. Mu joins in. Toru replies that it's something like a skill monsters use. If you touch it, the same thing will happen to him. Mu takes Saru's gun and starts touching the smoke, saying it's fun. Her guns start melting. Sarah takes it and asks Toru if he is okay, if he was not affected by this strange thing. Toru tells them to look at his cloak and says that something like that for the skin of a snake living in a poisonous swamp means nothing. Sarah apologizes and says she should have stopped him. Toru tells her not to push herself so hard. Using the invocation on flying objects is very difficult. Besides, that's what the mantle was made for. Sarah thinks about it and then asks Toru if she can try something. Toru is surprised at first, then smiles. She points her weapon and uses her evocation on his cloak. Toru tries to cut the material with his knife, then says that it has become stronger. He wonders if this means that the skill has reversed the effect of the decay bullet that lowered her defense. Sarah asks how he can handle that, since he can continue using it now. Toru asks what else to continue using. This will be the key to defeating the Labyrinth Lord. Sarah is happy with these words, and Mu asks what other key, what it is, and is it tasty at all. They come out of the cave. The miners are worried and ask if they are sure everything is okay. He, of course, trusts them. Toru assures them that they will not cause them any problems. They will stop them all, so they don't have to worry. The miner says he understands, and that he will then use his authority and allow them to do so. It will also be to their advantage if they can do it faster, but he is surprised that they have come up with such a plan. Toru replies that the life of an adventurer makes such cunning a man's honor. He asks them to come in 30 minutes. The miner asks if they only need to reach the end of the first level. Toru replies that this is enough for the hobgoblin to react. Toru asks Sisson if he can rely on him if something happens. His group confidently replies that they can rely on them. They go into the cave. Rikaru wonders if everything will be okay with the old man. Hisoku asks him if he is worried. Rikaru asks if it's not crazy to use the fact that monsters are huddled together in the presence of a large number of people to draw the attention of the goblins on the second level. He adds that it won't take long and will make life easier for the old miner, but it means they'll have to fight everything at once. Hisoku laughs. Rikaru asks him irritably what he's doing. Hisoku says that to think that such a selfish person would start worrying about someone else. Half an hour later, Shisun shouts that it's time and that they're heading out. Rikaru says he's ready and determined. Hisoku tells him he probably won't have to do anything. Alaisha tells them to stop talking because it's making it hard for her to concentrate. After a while, the miners shout that they are also coming in. Inside the cave, Toru says that the first level is now clear. Sarah asks Mu if she can take a look. Mu shows the rocks and tells him to look at how high she was able to stack them. Toru says that's great, but he'd like to know where the other monsters are right now. Mu asks if it can't wait because she's so worried about those rocks right now. Toru sternly says he'd like to know now. Mu obeys and uses her ability. She sees numerous goblins. She immediately says that there are a lot of them there. Toru says that's great, it seems to have worked. She tells Sarah that they have to hold out. Sarah tells him to leave it to her and that she'll have his back. Toru asks Mu where the closest of them are. Mu points in a certain direction. The goblins tense up. Toru easily decapitates them all. In the passage between the first and second levels, Toru and Shisan run into each other. Rikaru says that it looks like they took care of everything and left nothing for them. Hisoku says that he knew he wasn't joking. The miner says that it was actually just the three of them who did it, and that he has been doing this for a long time. But this is the first time he has seen something like this. This went on for more than a week, and by the time the last day arrived, the head of the miners was speechless. In the Goblin Cave on the last day of conquering, Benietta comes to them with Godin. She says that today is the last day and that he was able to achieve the goal of conquering this cave, calling him Mr. Ordinary Hero. Toru asks her if they really dropped everything to see them. Bitiena says that after all, they are rivals, and it is logical to observe the enemy's movements. Godin says that they have done nothing to deserve to be called their rivals, but he admires this way of thinking. The girl asks irritably why he is laughing at her. Sarah greets Betiena, who says she can just call her Betty. She notes that her shirt is surprisingly good quality. She asks her to show her the shop where she bought it next time. Sarah says she will show her and that the shop is simply wonderful. Sarah even suggests that Betty go there together. Betty leans over and says that Mew looks energetic too, but is as small as ever. Mew punches her, leaving Betty speechless. She asks why this girl is hitting her. Mew replies that if they are rivals, then Mew doesn't want to be friends with her. Godin bends down, pulls out the candy, and says what a wonderful character she has. So she asks to be allowed to give her the candy as a reward. Mew says that Godin is a good guy, and if he wants, he can become her servant. He says that such an idea is simply great. He asks if they can start by discussing the salary. Mew opens his bag of stones and asks if he means this. Godin says what amazing stones they are. Godin says that, however much it pains him, he is a loyal servant to her Lady Betty. And she wonders why she hired someone like that. Toru says that it's time to end this, and that they are heading to the last level. They say goodbye and say that they are leaving. Betty tells him to try hard there. Season says he believes they can do it. He asks them not to overdo it. Betty says she believes they won't lose, so they should try. Godin tells her that those are incredibly kind words, but if they conquer the dungeon, it will mean they've lost. Betty just smiles and tells Godin that it will just mean they will have to challenge them again. After conquering the first and second levels, which Toru and his squad had become accustomed to, and after restoring the number of skill usages, they headed to the third. They come to a strange, vast place. Toru says that apparently the third level consists of only this room. Mew notices something and points somewhere, saying that there is someone there. It is the leader of the hobgoblins with his huge bone as a weapon. Meanwhile, Uriel is preparing dinner, and when the cats meow, she places a plate of meat for them. She says that this is all they will get until Thoro and the girls return to them. The goblin leader breathes an angry, poisonous breath. Toru tells everyone to get started and tells Mew separately that he is relying on her. Mew immediately uses both the Thunder Needle and the Electric Spike. He gets this power. It's nice to see that she's been able to use both Thunder Force and Electric Spike without changing her skill tree in the last 15 days. Toru sees Sarah's excitement and tells her that she doesn't need to be so tense. Sarah says that she's just bursting with enthusiasm. Toru prepares to attack and swings his sword. The leader starts to roar. Toru immediately runs towards him. The monster tries to hit him. Toru dodges the blow in a split second and takes away his hand where he was holding his weapon. The monster screams in pain. Toru immediately strikes a second time and only grazes the area of his mouth, causing him to bleed. Toru moves to another spot without hesitation and attacks him, hitting his neck. Toru wonders if he was always this slow. However, after some time, all the monster's wounds heal and the blood stops flowing. In the background, the girls shout at him to try harder. Toru smiles at them. At that moment, the monster immediately approaches him from behind. Toru notices this and manages to dodge the blow. His weapon touches his cloak, and Toru sends an electric current into him. Toru thinks to himself, it worked. Using the hobgoblin's decay bullet effect, casting Sarah's appeal a few times, it was worth it. It only lasts a few minutes, but its durability surpasses even that of dragon skin. He raises his sword, which has the same effect. The monster growls in rage and begins to attack him again, but Toru first deprives him of his head, then deals several more blows, leaving him practically without limbs. The black hole that was in the middle of the cave suddenly changed to normal ground. Toru had heard that when the Lord of the Labyrinth died, the black hole would instantly disappear, but this was the first time he had seen such a thing. Girls run to Thor, exclaiming that he was so cool and that it was wonderful, even though Mew thought he would lose. They hug. Toru says that they are not finished yet, because as a prize for conquering the labyrinth, he should receive a skill fruit. He touches the ground. He sees the fruit of accelerated healing. Any damage or abnormalities of the owner's body will be healed faster. Toru thinks it's a bit weird since he already has recovery, but then he thinks it might be useful for healing minor wounds. Toru tells Mew and Sarah that it's great. He tells them to try touching it. Mew touches it. Toru sees physical enhancements, increasing the wearer's physical strength. Toru says that Mew's new skill is pretty good. She is happy and says that she understands. She has become stronger again. An adventurer's job doesn't always involve fighting monsters. Instead, they spend most of their time moving, so the leg enhancements are something to be thankful for. Sarah also touches. Toru sees anesthesia, which dulls the pain felt by the owner if it exceeds his pain threshold. Sarah asks how it works. Will it make the pain feel less? Toru replies that if he remembers correctly, it's the most dropped skill here, and it's very good for a vanguard. Adventurers are said to be able to withstand injuries that would normally cause them to pass out because they usually gain this skill the first time they conquer a dungeon. However, from what Toru has heard, it doesn't work on small wounds like scratches at all. This skill only works when it goes beyond a certain point. Sarah says that for some reason she feels like she got a useless skill. Mew brags that she got the perfect one for her. Toru only says that it all depends entirely on her luck. As far as he knows, there is only one skill in this place that is suitable for the vanguard, and unfortunately, none of them got it. Sarah notices something is wrong and asks if this is the end for them. Toru replies that it would be problematic if the ceiling suddenly collapsed on them. After the black hole disappears, the dungeon disappears after about an hour. Then he remembers and asks Sarah if she could check if her skill appeal works. She points her weapon at the fruit and says that she doesn't think anything good can come of it. Toru thinks that he's not working on something that can't be considered an attack, and suggests that they all go back already. He steps onto the round ground where the black hole used to be and feels that it is unstable. He thinks that it is just like that time with the stone slab. He says that it is probably worth checking. He asks the girls to move away. Sarah moves away and calls Mew to follow her. He touches the ground and uses recovery. Everything starts shaking. Sarah screams. The leader's body parts start to regenerate, and he comes back to life. Sarah immediately pushes Mew away from her. The monster pulls Sarah by the hair and pulls her towards him. Toru screams her name. He immediately remembers and thinks that everything is exactly like 9 years ago. Then he says that now everything is different and that he is not alone anymore. He gives the command to Mew, who immediately understands and uses the electric spike. The monster is electrocuted, which frees Sarah. The monster immediately reaches back towards Sarah, but she manages to use the appeal, which stops it, and the next second, Toru deprives it of its head. Toru asks Sarah if she is okay. She says she is, and that it is all thanks to Toru. Mew says that he showed up so quickly that he caught her off guard. Sarah apologizes to Mew for pushing her. Suddenly, Sarah says that when he pulled her hair, it didn't hurt that much. She assumes that it's because of the skill she learned. Toru says that's probably true, to which Sarah replies that she was very lucky then. Mew notices that another stone slab has appeared, which she tells Thor, who stands up, walks over, and places his hand again. He gains a physical enhancement skill like Mew. He says that the skill he gained before is still there, and that he has gained a new one. It seems that using recovery on the stone tablet causes the entire labyrinth to return to its pre-subjugation state. He tells the girls to try touching it too. Sora has received a boost in healing. Sarah is happy for her and says that it's great. Toru thinks that he has 6 more uses of recovery left for today. It's probably impossible to return everything to the state it was in just before the stone tablet appeared. If he wanted to pull off the labyrinth Lord Resurrection trick, He needed to sharpen the blade as much as possible. Considering the danger of running into more goblins on the way back, they had 2 more tries. Toru suggests they try. Sarah asks if he's really going to do something, if he wants to remove the stone slab. Toru says that he wants to do it, so he asks Mu to use the electric spike and thunder needle and for Sarah to stay close to Mu. The 3rd time, Toru received pain relief, Mu received accelerated healing, and Sora received physical enhancement. On the 4th try, Toru and Sora received a boost in magic power, and Mu received pain relief. Toru says that this is great and that now each of them has gained 4 skills. He suggests that they go back. Sarah asks Toru if they don't need his ear as proof. He replies that they don't because the destruction of the dungeon itself is proof. Sarah says she understands, and that even though he is the master of the labyrinth, not a single magic stone has fallen from it. Mile tells him that she is hungry. Toru says that it's too early to relax because the exploration of the dungeon is not finished until they exit it. They come out of the cave, meet people, and they in turn start clapping loudly. They come up to them. As soon as they exit the cave itself collapses before everyone's eyes, leaving behind smoke and dust. At the evaluation desk, Inna tells Thor that he has returned safe and sound. She asks how it went. Toru replies that they somehow managed it, and that it was a tough 2 weeks with the time limit. Anna says that it's a great job. She asks the miner if he has confirmed that the dungeon has been conquered. He says that he has confirmed that the dungeon has completely disappeared and that these guys are real adventurers. The miner shakes his hand and says it was fun working with them and that he looks forward to watching them grow. Anna congratulates them again, hands them the board with new tokens and asks them to take their tokens. They return home. Sarah sees Uriel standing on the porch and shouting that this is their mistress. They all walk through the city together. Uriel asks if she can really come with them since she didn't participate in the conquest. Toru tells her that of course she can, and that they called it a celebration for her promotion, but it's also a welcoming party for her. Mu happily asks if there will be a feast. Sarah is also happy. Toru only remains mysteriously silent, not answering the question. They approach Choi's establishment. Sarah asks if this is the place. They go in and are immediately greeted warmly. Dadan says that they have finally arrived and they have already started. Sako sits next to him and says nothing. Toru thanks them for the invitation. Uriel apologizes for keeping them waiting. Dadan, with red cheeks, says that everything is fine and asks them to sit here. Dadan points to a chair and says Sarah can sit here. She says there is only 1 chair left. Mu says she is too small. Toru gestures to Mu's lap, but Sarah happily takes her place, sitting on Toru's lap. Toru tells her that it will be uncomfortable for him to eat. Toru calls Mu. Mu tells Sarah that he didn't tell her. Mu ends up sitting on Toru's knee, and a sad Sarah sits on the remaining chair. Dadan says they seem to be doing well. Mu asks him directly who he is. Mu doesn't know him. Toru tells her that he came to them before asking him to fix the wall. Sarah says that last time his hair was shaggy. Toru says that it's because he used restoration to return his hair to how it was. Dadan laughs loudly at this. They are served dishes. Someone suggests they start eating. Dadan says that today it is on him, so let them take whatever they like. Everyone thanks him. Sako starts to choose something expensive and suggests starting with it. And Dadan says that he didn't say that he could, so let him not take the most expensive drinks and dishes. Sako tells him not to be so petty, calling him a former adventurer. Sako asks Uriel what about her. She says only if a little. Sako says that then another portion for her. Uriel asks Dadan if everything is really okay. He emotionally shouts to bring the barrel right away, and to take the beans too. Toru orders round potatoes and sausage. Dadan is indignant that he always orders this. Toru asks if they have regular drinks. The waiter says they have orange juice, then Toru asks for 2 glasses. Toru tells Sarah that she can order whatever she wants. Sarah says that she wants meat then. She points to the dish and asks what it is. The waiter replies that it is the foot of a large caterpillar. Sarah tries it and says it is so soft and delicious. Mu agrees and says that these meatballs are very tasty. She asks Sarah if she wants to try it. Sarah asks what it is. The waiter says it is lizard fat and cartilage, skewered, lightly fried, and then stewed. Sarah tries it and says it's delicious. The waiter thanks them. Mu also agrees with Sarah. Sarah wonders how it can be so delicious. The waiter smiles, holds up the plate and asks her to try it. She drinks the broth and says with surprise that it is delicious. The waiter asks if she understands that a little stewed meat is broth. Sarah now understands. This is the secret. She asks how he made this broth. He says it is a secret recipe and that he cannot tell. But the basis is cooking. If she ruins the broth, then she will not succeed. Sarah repeats his words and looks at the hot broth. The waiter tells her that if she really wants to be good at something, she needs to know the basics well. Sarah thinks about it. Potatoes and sausage are placed in front of Toru. Mew says it looks delicious and reaches for the dish. Toru tells her to slow down. Toru tells her several times to put it back, otherwise it will burn. She doesn't listen and puts the piece in her mouth anyway. A second later, she starts to burn all over and tears start to flow from her eyes. She starts to scream loudly and cry. Toru tells her that he warned her. Mew runs to Yril and buries himself in her legs. She calls Thor stupid, and Thor tells her that's why she should listen to him. He places his palm on her head. Although he can use recovery, he shouldn't indulge her every whim. Yril lifts Mew to her side and says that she is hugging her. Dodin says that it is just nostalgia and that his son was once like that. Sako agrees and says that he is like his daughter, a strong girl who does not listen to anyone. Toru says that Mew has become more selfish lately. Dodin tells him that he should take care of what he has. He doesn't understand. Dodin asks what he thinks he should do. He should make sure he gives her enough love. Dodin says that at times like these, scolding won't do any good. Instead, when the child is upset, he should be there. Toru asks what he should do then. Dodin says that it's okay, because selfishness is the other side of the motivational coin. So let it all out. Let her take her time and listen to what she has to say. Yril says that this is really good advice. Dayton blushes as much as he can and says that he feels young again when such a beauty tells him that. Sarah comes up with something and tells her to look at something. Mew tells her that she is not here. Sarah points and asks her to look at Mr. Mew's chest. Mew opens her eyes and sees the badge. She immediately screams, which sounds like Awanamoro. She asks him if he likes flowers too. Dodon replies that he's not sure, but he definitely doesn't hate them. Toru muses that this is no ordinary flower. The master obtained it by killing the boss of the labyrinth sleeping on the lowest level. It is the comb left behind by the multi-headed snake. Mew says that Dodon is Mr. Flower. He replies that he doesn't quite understand what she's talking about, but he's glad that her mood is back to normal. Dodon strokes her head and tells her what a cheerful child she is. Sako says that the flower grandfather is just right for her. Dodon tells him that he actually has a nickname too. Then Mew shouts that Sako has military eyes. Dodon laughs loudly and says that the formidable Sako, known for his seriousness and stern fighting style, is so spoiled. Sako says that anyone who works hard has no time to sleep. Mew says it's hard and she works too, so she knows. Sako says it's because only those who can do it can do it. Mew says she can and that she works hard and stacks the stones. Everyone laughs. Toru thanks Sarah and says she was a great distraction. Sarah tells him what she was thinking. Suddenly, she tells him that she will make a great broth. He awkwardly says that he is not sure he understood her correctly, but he wishes her luck. At the Adventurers Guild, Dodin says that, as he thought, the numbers don't match the calculations. Sako adds that this is especially true of the Rainstones. Taro and the girls come to them. Mew shouts that they haven't seen him since yesterday evening. Dodin asks if they are really going to new hunting grounds. He sees Yril and says with a red face that it suits her very well. Even Sako behind him is frozen in shock. Yril thanks her. Mew asks the flower mister to bend down. Dodin bends down and Mew grabs him by the beard. Dodon does not react and continues to discuss whether Sako knows the location of the magic crystals. Sako says that no evidence was brought to their healing temple, most likely it was taken to another city and left there. Dodin says that this means that the wind user is involved. Mew is having fun and hangs on Dodin's beard. The other adventurers pass by in surprise. Mew suddenly lowers his beard. Sako catches it and says that his hand slipped and that he is holding it. Mew thanks him, calling him Sleepy Mister. The soldiers standing behind him freeze in shock, their mouths open. Someone wants to prevent this, but Sako gives the command that this should not be done. Dadan tells Sako that he then awaits his report. Mu tells him that they will see the flower mister. Dadan pats her on the head and says that they will definitely see each other again. He leaves, patting Toru on the shoulder as he goes. Sako tells Toru that he has finally reached E rank. He reminds him that the non-interference period ends in 5 months. He asks if that is enough time. Toru comes over and takes Mu from his arms. Sako tells Toru to be careful because the next hunting grounds won't be so easy to handle. After some time, all 4 of them, including Uriel, ride out in a cart at high speed. Mu is sleeping on Uriel's lap. Uriel says that Mu was so excited when they first left, and now she's sleeping like a log. Sarah tells Toru that she is bored. Toru tells her that he will be on guard so that they can sleep. The seats on top of the wagon are cheaper and have a great view, but they need to be on guard because goblins may appear from the forest. Sarah says she wants to talk to Toru, who replies that as adventurers they should rest whenever possible. Uriel tells Thor that he can sleep too because her other leg is free. Thor first lays his head on her leg. Then he gets up, thanks her, and says maybe next time. Sarah tells him he can sleep with her then. Toru thanks her, but says that it would be better if she lay down next to him. Sarah is surprised by such a proposal. Uriel watches them with a smile and calm. Red Sarah says that she will wait until they are alone, so that no one will disturb them. Toru said that if it weren't for the nullification, the subjugation would have been impossible. But Sarah was the only one who watched the entire fight, so she plans to raise her nullification to level 2 during this trip. Sarah repeats again that she will make a wonderful broth. Uriel and Toru look at her lovingly. After some time, they arrive at some house. Toru wakes up Mu and tells her to get up. She immediately asks if it's time for breakfast. They enter a room where people are sitting at tables. Toru goes up to the counter and asks if this is the reception. The worker says it is and assumes that Toru is new. The worker greets them and tells them welcome to the River of Blood Adventurers Guild. The worker introduces himself. His name is Rishi. He is from the Fukasui family, and he is in charge of the instructions here. Toru thanks him. Uriel introduces herself and says she is pleased to meet her. Mu immediately asks her for 3 bowls of meat dango. Sarah introduces herself and tells Mu to calm down because this is not a store for her. Rishi says he will first tell them how and what works here. The return carriage leaves every day at 3 p.m., so he asks them to be careful not to miss theirs. Especially on weekends it is crowded, so it is better to book tickets in advance. Toru says that while they were walking here, 3 carriages passed by. He asks if they can get on that particular train. Rishi replies that they are carriages for transporting construction materials, and there is usually not enough space for passengers. Rishi says that there are hunting grounds further on, and that the Blood River has risen very high, so 10 adventurers come here. They usually ask each group to hunt in their respective areas, thus avoiding unnecessary confusion. He hoped he had made it clear to them. He goes on to explain that, to be more specific, upstream there are people of the red iron class, who are not inferior to the white iron destined for Yuzen. If they cross the large riverbed intended for collection, then downstream they will see the hunting grounds. Toru muses that to get to the other side they will have to overcome 10 huge hippos that live upstream. He had heard that the hunting grounds were very crowded these days, so there were some restrictions in place. But that was a different story. Toru asks Rishi how they distribute the work here. He explains that it usually depends on the hunters themselves and their enthusiasm. If they show themselves during the day, they end up among the best in the hunt. Toru asks if it's true that there are a lot of disagreements between hunters and adventurers. There are a lot of vague hints about hostile relations between hunters and adventurers. Rishi awkwardly replies that this is not entirely true. He would like to do something about it, but he does not have enough people. He says that if they need weapons or any other equipment, he will provide them with it. He asks them not to be shy and to speak up if they need anything. Rishi says that's all, then asks if they have any questions. Toru says there are no questions and that everything is fine. Rishi hands over the document and asks them to sign. Mu happily asks if she can sign. Toru sternly says no, because it needs his name. Mu immediately becomes sad. Toru remembers Dadan's words about making sure he gives her enough love. After that, Toru pretends to ask if anyone knows how to spell his name. He asks if Mu can write it. She seems to be much better at it. Mu happily says to leave it to her. Ural and Sarah quietly laugh in the background. Miu proudly shows the paper. Toru says that she really wrote it. Rashid takes the document and says that his name is very familiar to him. He asks if they have met him before. Toru says that he has lived in the ogre forest for a long time, so it is unlikely that they would have known each other. Rishi says that he understands. Rishi tells Lady Urala that the Bloody River will last for 2 days, so she should try not to be late for her carriage. Ural replies that they understand, then thanks him for his help. Rishi is left awkwardly with red cheeks. They go out and walk towards the river. Mu points somewhere and shouts, "Are they really lifting something? What is it?" There are many people with bags collecting something. Toru says it looks like they are searching for precious stones. He says that the sand here seems to contain red iron. Sarah says that the name is appropriate to their rank. Toru says that basically the material that can be obtained from this hunting ground seems to have a color that indicates rank. Ural says that the river is a very strange and frightening color though. She hasn't been to the north much, so she's a little surprised by it. Miu asks if she is not beautiful and that she has such a beautiful color. Sarah says that she thinks it is not worth swimming in this river because who knows what could happen to the body. Toru says that she is right, they do not know what is in it, so she tells them not to drink and to be careful. It is also quite resistant to corrosion. If you soak wood or iron, it will rot or rust in a few days. No ships cross this river, which is why it is so quiet. They walk along the bank, pulling Miu on a sled. She sees tents and asks Toru what they are. He replies that these are adventurers' tents and that they can stay and rest here. Inside the tent, people also notice them. One asks if this is the same man who was in the forest then. The second says that he looks very much like him. It seems that it was he who defeated Rusel and went to the temple. The other agrees and says that according to rumors, he is very strong and can lay waste to a crowd of warriors, and it would be a shame to be defeated by such an old man. They notice Mu and say she has red clothes. One wonders if they are not adventurers. They can't believe it. Toru and the girls find a free place. Toru asks if they can stay here. Everyone obediently and amicably gathers and gets ready. A man approaches them and asks what they are doing here. Toru replies that they are not doing anything, that they just decided to stop here and hunt. The man tells them that the place is already occupied. Toru then apologizes and says that he didn't know it was already taken since he didn't see anything. The man tells them to ask if there are any tents available nearby, although almost all of them are empty. Toru says that he just thought that this place was very nice because it was located next to the branch. The man then tells them to follow him. After 10 minutes, they are all walking along the shore. Toru admits that there are very large distances between the tents here. They approach a tent. Toru asks one if they can hunt here. The man does not answer and only points to a sign with a cross. Toru asks, so it's not possible. The man says that if he wants to die, then please. Toru asks what he means. The woman says with a smile that it is dangerous to go there in the rain. Toru says that perhaps it really could be dangerous because of the large amount of precipitation. Toru tells the girls that they should move on. Miu is fast asleep on the sled. Sarah says that they need to find a place to spend the night. Toru is choking hard. Toru looks around and sees Uril not looking quite cheerful. He asks if she is okay. She hesitantly says she is. Toru suggests taking a break. Uril breathes heavily and thinks that she no longer has the physical strength she had 20 years ago. How she would like to easily overcome difficulties and walk calmly through the thickets. But alas, this will no longer be possible. The plants around absorb energy. This is a plant that has been altered by miasma. It has a habit of absorbing energy from the surrounding organism. It is because of it that there is not a single living soul here, and simple plants do not grow. Because living beings are afraid to approach it. The man asks him what happened. Toru says they decided to take a little rest. He asks why all of a sudden. Without waiting for an answer, he starts shouting that he has had enough and that they should get out of here immediately. Mu wakes up and asks what happened. The man repeats that he told him to get out of here. Thor awkwardly tells Uriel that there is nothing to be done and hopes that she is against it, then picks her up and they continue on. Uriel blushes and apologizes for causing so much trouble. Tora smiles and tells her not to worry about it. Miu asks if he is really going to carry her in his arms. Sarah says that he is, and that she is even a little jealous. Toru ponders Sako's words that the next hunting spot is quite far away. They pass by a tent. Toru says that there is nothing for them to do here, so they will move on. They approach the tent and ask, apologizing in advance, if the tent is free. The man looks at Ural's body. He says with a grin that it is absolutely empty, and inside the tent the people are also smiling suspiciously. Moving a little further away from the tent, Sarah says that it is great that they finally found a free place. Toru is offered to stop here and unpack. He asks them if they can help him. Mu goes somewhere and says that they will come back soon. Toru tells her just not to go near the river. Ural thanks Thor for her help. Thor tells her that they need to get some good rest first. Toru gives her a folding chair. She sits down and exhales. Ural says, asking for forgiveness, that she is completely out of the habit of such hikes, and that she is not as resilient as she used to be. Toru tells her that everything is fine, so let her rest. Sarah asks Toru for details, whether it needs to be put here. Toru says he's going to help with the tent, so he leaves her for a while. Ural tells him not to worry about her. Miu collects the stones and is surprised by how big they are. Toru and Sarah hold the edges of the material and hammer a nail with a stone. Toru announces that they are done. He slaps Saru's hand and says that they did a great job. Sarah says she couldn't find a table, but she did find these coasters that instantly heat up food and drinks. Ural brings cups of hot tea on a tray and says that the tea is ready, so let them drink it. Sarah sips the hot tea and exhales, saying that she feels so good. Toru turns and calls Mu, asking her to sit down for a moment. Miu shouts that she is already on her way and continues building high-rises out of stones. She takes another stone and hits it on her tower, causing the stones to fly away from her. She's actually enjoying it. Toru wonders in confusion if this is fun. After a while, they get a little closer to the river. Toru tells him to stand still, and he himself will go ahead and see what is there. He tells Mu to stand next to Ural for now, so that he can check these stones. They obey him. Sarah tells him to be careful, and Ural tells him that she understands him. Mu shouts to him that she loves him and hands him her electric spike. He steps closer and thinks that he has seen it before, but he cannot remember. He wonders what is on the other side of the river. The stones under his feet begin to move, and black frogs suddenly jump out of the water. One jumps out straight at Thor, who takes a step back. 4 frogs approach him. Ural wonders if the spirits of the oxen are angry, so she needs to do something. She uses a sleep spell, causing the animals to hibernate. Sarah shouts that this is amazing. Miu shouts that they won't lose. Urilla warns them not to make any noise, or they will be woken up. Tora smiles and says to himself that this is as expected of Urilla. This spell normally only affects one enemy. Because it dissipates quickly and cannot target multiple enemies, it is compensated by a characteristic magic injection so that the effect does not weaken when the spell dissipates. Even if a lot of magical energy is expended, it is not easy to reduce it due to the oversized magical powers. This is a universal spell, so it spreads differently than others and has a more powerful effect. Toru uses his sword to kill monsters. The frog's skin has poisonous spines, so you can't touch them. Because of the mucous membrane and spines, the sword can't pierce the skin. Killing them is very problematic. He's about to kill the last one, thinking how good it is that they can't move. Then an arrow flies towards him and hits his sword. The arrow is reflected and sticks into the ground. Toru turns around and sees his neighbor. Toru takes out his arrows and asks what he plans to do. He snidely asks if he's talking about his arrow. He smiles and says he's sorry he missed. He asks for it to be returned to him, as he thinks there isn't even a scratch on it. Toru tells him to be more careful next time. He rudely replies that he is talking too much and tells him to give it back quickly. Toru holds out the arrow. The man holds it, but Toru himself does not let go of it. The man's hand even begins to tremble. He panics and tells him to let go of the arrow already. His other 2 comrades say the same thing, that he should let go now, and that they can deal with him quickly as soon as they are given the command. In the background, Sarah screams at him not to let himself be hurt, and Miu asks him to try. Toru simply releases the arrow and they return in anger. Toru comes to the girls and says that it is not safe here, so they better change their place. The 3 of them are still going strong. One points out that they are heading in that direction. The archer takes out his arrow, places it in his bow, and begins to aim. While Toru and the girls are chatting quietly, suddenly the bowstring breaks, hitting the man right in the face. Sarah turns around to see him kneeling in pain. Toru looks at his hand and says that he told him to be careful next time. If you look, you can see blood flowing down the river. Ureli cast her spell on the frogs again. They suddenly fall asleep and Tharo comes to them and finishes the job. Behind them stand Sarah and Mew. Toru and his team took up position on an empty riverbank, further downstream from where they had been surrounded by archers. While Toru was swinging his sword at the frog, a huge fish suddenly jumped out of the water. It opened its mouth, from which a large stream of liquid with unusual bubbles flew towards him. Toru reacts immediately and steps back, but the liquid still flies towards her. Toru lifts her cloak to her face and protects herself from the poison. At this moment, the fish releases this liquid to the girls. They get scared and panic, but Sarah uses her appeal in time, which redirects this poison back down. The liquid hits the frogs that haven't been killed yet. They fall asleep and start croaking one by one. Here, Urela steps in again and casts a fog block, causing frost. Everything around her is in smoke. Then this smoke is directed back to the frogs. They suddenly freeze. They are alive and understand what is happening, but they can do nothing. This is evident from their slight trembling. Toru swings his sword, but at that moment, the frogs begin to move. They return towards the river. Toru tries to catch up with them, but the fish comes out of the water again. The fish shoots poison at them again. Toru dodges, falling on his back. Hell hits the ground, causing rocks to scatter. As Toru stands up, the poison flies towards him. He freezes in shock, not knowing what to do. Then, Sarah saves him by using her transformation. She does not allow the poison to penetrate further and reflects it back into the river. The frogs at this time quickly jump into the river. Sarah screams that they have escaped after all. She cries out in frustration to that fish to stop bothering them. A pleased Mew says that they ran away because they were afraid of her. A disappointed Uril says that perhaps they should have frozen them better. At this point, Sarah apologizes to Toru, saying that if she could stop them, they would never come back. Toru smiles and tells her not to worry and that it is not her fault. Sarah is really sad about this. At this time, Toru goes to one of the dead frogs and cuts out its tongue. Mu asks him if he cut out her tongue. He answers, holding up the tongue, that it is proof of his defeat. He tells Mu to be careful because it is poisonous. His knife has become dull from contact with his tongue. Cracks have appeared on it, and it begins to melt before his eyes. But with the help of restoration, he easily returns it to its original form. Toru turns to the river. He thought that the further downstream they were, the more room there would be to hunt. Toru says, while they are all relaxing and drinking hot tea, that it seems like the monsters have only become fewer. He thinks that the only one in a good mood is Mu, who is busy laying out the items. Toru says that trying to do something with this frog is certainly troublesome. Uril sips his tea and says that the atmosphere here is so pleasant. Mu runs up to Toru and hugs her around the neck. Toru continues holding his cup of tea and tells her to be careful. Sarah sees this, gets up from her chair, leaving her cup of tea, and runs to hug him too. Uril says that he sees that he is a good person. Sarah tells her that it is enough to hug Thor a little to lift her spirits. As if all the problems immediately disappear, Sarah asks Uril what about her. Uril thinks for a moment, because she says that she thinks this is a good way. She moves the chair closer to Thor and hugs him from the side next to Mu. They catch the calm and close their eyes. Suddenly Mu says that Toru looks gloomy. She asks him if something happened. Toru takes a sip of tea and tells her not to worry because all men have that expression. Mu says happily, maybe it's because Mu is too cute. Toru agrees with a smile, which makes Mu smile even wider and happier. They all sit there hugging each other. Toru asks them if they think they should change their hunting grounds. Uril opens her eyes and says that she thinks everything is fine here too. Sarah adds that because of these fish, they don't even fit. Toru says that it's not that he can't handle their attacks. He's just afraid he'll wake them up again. Sarah pulls away and asks if that's going to happen. Why not just put them back to sleep? Uril closes his eyes again and replies that these creatures are quite interesting, clinging to Thor. She looks at the river and says that it is a powerful water-based magic, although it does have its weaknesses. She says that if you use multiple of the same attack on each, the effect of their magic will be reduced. Toru thinks and asks Avril if this means that it causes resistance in monsters. Avril smiles and says that it is true. Excited, Miu asks Toru if he wants her to go and do it. Toru stipulates that only if she learns to swim really well. Sarah is worried and tells Miu that she needs to practice more. She replies that it is good that she will try. Toru brings a cup of hot tea to his mouth and says that they need to sit and wait here. All the girls are still sitting with him in their arms. Ural says that she is not in the best shape right now, so she thinks that the best solution is to rest. Miu asks Toru if dinner isn't ready yet. Toru hangs his head down as if annoyed. Sarah doesn't understand him and asks what's wrong. Then Toru turns his head and shouts how long they will sit there and stare at them. The man in the middle clicks his tongue and says he noticed them. The guy on the side is indignant, saying he told them not to stick their heads out too early. That guy replies that he was just wondering when they would start. The third guy smiles and says that there's nothing he can do about it, and that he's never seen such beauty before. The first one says again that he prefers more modest and sweet girls. The third one objects, saying that no, because the most important thing is charm and seriousness. The first one doesn't understand and asks if beauty isn't in a small and unnoticeable form. The third one continues to argue that something completely different is important. They even start to fight. Toru is really annoyed by this. He clenches his teeth. The guy in the middle separates them and apologizes to Toru for disturbing them and asks them to continue. Toru yells at him to shut up with great anger. They begin to introduce themselves. One of the Rolf is the eldest son, a responsible and reliable person. The middle son, Nameless, who is 2 years younger than the eldest, always answers for his words. The youngest is Guktov, and he is 2 years older than the middle one. He is very attentive, unlike his brothers. The elders hit him on the head, asking what he said. They start fighting among themselves again. Ural asks them if they want to have some tea. Toru gets angry and asks Ural why she is inviting them. Those brothers immediately calm down and say that they would be happy to drink tea, awkwardly scratching the back of their heads. They end up all together in a circle drinking tea. Toru starts asking something. One of them asks what he's going to ask. Toru asks with irritation what they are doing here. The middle one thinks and asks in return why Toru is asking about this. The elder one answers that he personally looked at beautiful girls. The younger one tells him that it is somehow not very good, and shouldn't he have said that he just wanted to check if it was him or not. The elder seems to remember something and starts saying that it seems they haven't been here before, so he thought he could help them. In the background, Mu is sitting on Sarah's lap, unhappy that someone is drinking from her cup. Toru asks how long they have been hunting here. The middle one says it has been more than 2 years, and that he is tired of looking at this terrible red water. Toru says that they seem to be his neighbors, but he didn't see them on the way here. The middle one replies that it's because they were a little further down the river and that the bank there is much larger. Toru asks what about the prey then? He replies that there is none at all, and that downstream it is all the same. Toru then asks why they don't go the other way. The middle one with a sad face says that they can't go there because they don't have money. He tells them that for people like them to get to that place, they have to pay a huge amount of money. Toru asks them to tell him more about it. He agrees and suggests that the Bloody River's spoils be roughly divided into 3 main categories. The upper reaches are the most fertile, full of rampaging hippos, redfin crabs, and other monsters that provide income in the form of materials and points. But as he said, it is popular, so it is not so easy to get there. The next is the middle course, where they have already been. You can see red poison frogs there, but when it rains you might see others too. Toru asks what the sign with the black cross mark is on the way here. He says that's what he was talking about. If they hunted there, they would have problems. He talks about the lower reaches, where they are now. It's too far away, so of course you can catch fish here. But mostly, they just get in the way, so it's the worst place to hunt. Toru says that's why there are so few people here. Totu says it's better to wait until the middle reaches open up than to hunt here. He says that although there is more game there, it is still not very suitable for hunting because there's a lot of competition. Toru says that if you think about it, he was kicked out of there for just standing there when Ural got sick. He suggests that they probably thought they were going to rob them. Toru asks why they would think that. He replies that many pretend to pass by and then grab the prey and run away. He says that they were almost deceived, so that the neighbors will consider them the main threat, and it will be everywhere. But even if they hunt in the middle reaches, they will have to rise to leave this river. Toru asks again, is this serious? He says that this is true and that there is one faction. These factions take part of the spoils, monopolizing the profit depending on their belonging to one race or another. Toru asks if he himself is not one of them. He replies that if that were the case, they would not be here anymore. His brothers support him. After some thought, Toru asks how they can get to the upper reaches. He takes a sip of hot tea and answers that it would require a lot of money. Toru smiles awkwardly and says that this is not a case where you can learn everything by observation. The middle one says that they can stand up for themselves, but if someone attacks them, they are unlikely to win. The elder adds with disappointment that they can't even use magic. The younger one sadly says that he doesn't like fighting because it ends up bleeding too much. The situation is relieved by Yuro, who asks if they would like another cup of tea. The middle one happily thanks her. He says the tea is very tasty. The younger adds that he is nervous and his throat is dry because there are so many beauties around. Yuro laughs coquettishly, covering his mouth with a small fist, and thanks him. She brings hot tea. Toru asks them if they know the people who are in charge here. He sighs when he talks about it. The Red Thunder, Purple Eye, and Red Tail tribes have excellent hunting grounds. They contain almost half of all the river hippos. In fact, they themselves are one of the Purple Eyes, which is why they were invited here. But the head of the Dataro tribe is a very unpleasant person, in his opinion. Toru is indignant. Why is no one saying anything about this? He replies that there are rumors that the rebels simply ended up drowning in the river. There is silence as Toru remembers Rishi's worried face when he asked him about the conflicts. He continues his story and says that the people in black suits are now doing whatever they want. They are from the Adventurers Security Department. Toru then asks what happens next. The brothers didn't even understand him and asked what he wanted to say. Toru asks, they're not going to continue this now. The middle guy smiles and says that Toru is no slouch. He says that they have a plan. The older one says he bets they would all drown in tears if they brought it to life. The younger one says he's not ready yet. The eldest awkwardly asks Toru to forget about it, who simply agrees. The middle brother says he can teach them some tricks. But first he asks to give him a break. He asks them if their problem with the frogs is because the fish are in the way. Mew says that it is, and Sarah adds that it is difficult to deal with. He says that it is very easy to solve. Sarah asks how. Should they drag the frogs away from the river? He says that the further they are from the shore, the less likely the fish are to notice them, and the less likely they are to be hit by water bombs. Then Sarah adds that it's not that simple because frogs don't go back to the river at all. Sarah immediately gives in, and the brothers say that it will be so simple that they will be shocked. They offer to demonstrate it to them with a smile and a thumbs up.